Chapter 4763. Ever since Princess Xia met Xiaohua, she had never turned hostile like this, regardless of whether Xiaohua was a little monk or a Taoist Mahayana realm cultivator. Her attitude made Xiaohua stunned. He asked curiously, What's wrong? Xiaohua. Princess Xia's sullen expression didn't disappear, but she still suppressed the slight anger in her heart and said in a low voice, You don't understand women at all. Fairy Hongxia was able to choose you before you had even shown your talent. Moreover, she had intimate contact with you. So how could she choose someone else? Not to mention that you left for hundreds of years. Even if you ascended, she would still only have you in her heart. You used your thoughts to misunderstand her. You really let down her deep feelings for you. But, Xiaohua said rather innocently, that day, didn't she say that she wanted everyone to be quiet? Yes, she wanted to be quiet. But did you give her an answer? Did she give you an answer? Princess Xia said somewhat resentfully. After you left her, you were expelled by the Imperial Thunder sect, and then there was no news of you. In her heart, there was only concern and worry. So how could she still think about the previous agreement? You can go and find her without worry. If I guess wrong, you can just turn around and ignore her. Xiaohua was somewhat ashamed and said in a low voice, Actually, I am somewhat afraid of seeing her. Princess Xia looked at Xiaohua from head to toe and said, Xiaohua, so you brought me to the Dawn Rain continent with the intention of letting me meet her alone. How could that be? Xiaohua touched his nose and said with a bitter smile, No matter how afraid I am, I can't let you meet her alone. Princess Xia looked at Xiaohua's familiar action and didn't say anything. She also raised her head and looked at the clouds rising and falling in the distance. The setting sun dyed the nearby horizon red. Her somewhat trembling, delicate body slowly leaned on Xiaohua's shoulder, and she didn't say anything for a long time. Xiaohua didn't know what Princess Xia was thinking, so he didn't dare to be too presumptuous. He only gently wrapped his arm around Princess Xia's waist. His mouth and nose were filled with the fragrance of Princess Xia's hair, and his gaze slowly followed the setting sun. Seeing the half-broken crescent moon, Princess Xia opened her mouth and said, Xiaohua. Yes, Xiaohua replied. I'm actually quite disappointed. Princess Xia said indifferently, because you're not as tall as I thought. Yes. What else could Xiaohua say? He could only lower his head and agree. However, even though I am disappointed, I don't have too many complaints, Princess Xia said. After all, men are different from women. The pursuit was a kind of conquest, a kind of stimulation, or a kind of possession. As for us women, we hope to have a kind of reliance, a kind of comfort, a kind of safety that we can entrust our lives to. Do you remember little white dragon's wives and concubines? They came when you were in seclusion. What we saw earlier was just the tip of the iceberg. Little white dragon has dozens of wives and children. Why are there so many? Xiaohua was a bit flabbergasted. Dragon clan. In the 3 continents, dragons are the most masculine and masculine races. Many female demons have a special liking for dragons. Princess Xia explained. Moreover, the demon clan only talks about sexual intercourse and reproduction, unlike the human clan, where sexual intercourse is more common. You can't look at the demon race with the eyes of a human. Then it's no wonder. Xiaohua agreed. However, we are humans. Naturally, we have to use human ethics to demand ourselves. We can't act recklessly like the demon clan. How would I dare? Xiaohua muttered, not daring to speak loudly. The corners of Princess Xia's mouth curled into a faint smile. She held Xiaohua's hand and said, Xiaohua, actually, you have already done well enough. I'm not too clear about the situation in the Tao sect. However, among us Confucian cultivators, having 3 wives and 4 concubines is considered normal. Moreover, if a man doesn't have wives and concubines, he'll be laughed at. Of course, if you have too many thoughts, I can't force you to do anything. After all, you're now the strongest person in the 3 continents. Besides the laws of heaven and earth, I'm afraid no one can restrict you. However, what I want to tell you is that when you have other thoughts, can you think about my feelings? Think about Fairy Hongxia's feelings, and also think about Sister Shue's feelings. If you feel that you can give us an explanation, then I won't stop you. If you feel that we can't accept it, then please take back your thoughts. It has to be said that Zixia, as the princess of the Immortal Palace, was far smarter than Shue and Fairy Hongxia. She was not like Shue who blindly followed Xiaohua, nor was she like Fairy Hongxia who casually berated Xiaohua and made him follow her own ideas. She only told Xiaohua her feelings and let him ask himself. Moreover, she made it clear that as long as Xiaohua felt that he didn't let her down, then Xiaohua could develop other relationships. The more she said this, the more Xiaohua wouldn't do anything against her. Zixia, I swear, Xiaohua said matter-of-factly. Unfortunately, before Xiaohua could finish speaking, Princess Zixia covered his mouth with her hand and shook her head. Xiaohua, no one can be sure about the future. When you fell in love with Fairy Hongxia at first sight, did you think that you were far away from the Dawn Rain continent and couldn't return? Did you think that you would meet me? Even a few decades ago, did you think that you would be able to return to the Dawn Rain continent? There are too many uncertainties in the future. Moreover, don't forget that regardless of whether or not the three continents can survive the calamity, you will soon ascend. I don't know what the Immortal Realm is like, but I do know that you're going to. The Immortal Realm. I can't ascend to the Immortal Realm for the time being. Even if I did, I'd have to go to the Heavenly Court. You and I don't have the same path. Moreover, Xiaohua, I have a premonition that this journey will be eternal. I'm afraid that our fate will end here. We won't have the chance to meet again. Saying this, Princess Zixia turned her head and kissed Xiaohua's lips. A kind of sweetness immediately drowned Xiaohua. Happiness was like the profound water palace from a long time ago. The night was without a trace, the stars and the moon were boundless, and the West Sea was silent tonight. When the sun rose from the east, Xiaohua had a strange feeling in his heart. He said in a low voice, Zixia, you also saw the future? No. Princess Zixia's head leaned on Xiaohua's chest for the whole night. She felt that happiness was too little, so she casually replied. Then how do you know that we won't have the chance to meet again? Xiaohua asked cautiously. TCH. Princess Zixia rolled her eyes at him and said, when you return from the Dawn Rain continent, you will naturally have Fairy Hongxia by your side. Your heart still belongs to me alone now. At that time, you won't be who you are now. Chapter 4764. Phew. Xiaohua let out a long sigh of relief. It seems like once bitten, twice shy. Moreover, how could crossing realms be easy? There are many difficulties. Who knows when you'll reach the Dawn Rain mainland? Who knows if you'll be able to break the immortal array? What if you find out that the three continents have already been destroyed after breaking the immortal array? Princess Zixia continued. Or when you're on the way back to the Dawn Rain mainland, the heavenly tribulation suddenly descends. At that time, you already have no choice. AI, yes, the time left for me and the three continents is already running out. Xiaohua recalled the words of the Virokana world venerable. Presumably, this was what he saw when he used his great divine ability in the Thunder Temple. 100 years. No, only 90 years. Princess Zixia raised her head. The blush on her beautiful face had yet to fade, and tears were added to it. Xiaohua, I've waited for you for 90 years. If you don't return, I'll be killed by the world-exterminating mayfly. Xiaohua, you must remember, you must return. Xiaohua's heart ached, and he whispered, Zixia, why do you have to? Xiaohua, you'll slowly understand in the future. Princess Zixia looked at Xiaohua lovingly and said, as a leader, it seems glorious, but you've also lost a lot. There are many things that can't be done recklessly, and there are many sacrifices to be made. Fujiwen and the others know that the Fortune Gate has a way to survive, but if the Fortune Gate leaves, the Fortune Gate, Xiaohua, and Taoist Master Xiao will go down in history and infamy. Even if Xiaohua can break the immortal array in return, this kind of loss of reputation is impossible to make up for. Once people start to doubt, the power of faith will fade. Fu Jiwen and the others can sacrifice for the fortune gate. For you, why can't I? Fu Jiwen and the others have confidence in you. Why can't I? Since we all believe that you can return, why can't we wait here? Zixia. Xiao Hua held Princess Zixia's hand and said, "You've done too much for me. I'm afraid I won't be able to return it to you in this lifetime." Hee. It's precisely because you can't return it that you'll think of me in your heart. Princess Zixia mischievously pinches Xiao Hua's earlobe and says, "Wait until you reach the immortal world and become a heavenly sovereign, immortal king. Then my name will be engraved in your heart." Zixia. Xiao Hua hugged Princess Zixia in his arms, as if he really wanted to carve her into his heart. Xiao Hua. Princess Zixia also hugged Xiao Hua and whispered, "Remember me, don't forget me." 10 days passed in the blink of an eye. By the time Xiao Hua and Princess Zixia landed on the first dawn reef, the Fortune Gate's disciples had already gathered. The greeting of greetings to the sect master was like a tsunami. Before Xiao Hua could raise his hand to speak, another greeting of greetings to Princess Zixia was heard. This greeting was even louder than before. Obviously, the group of Fortune Gate's disciples already knew of Princess Zixia's decision and had accepted this immortal emperor's princess for the bottom of their hearts. Princess Zixia smiled and nodded. She didn't try to steal the attention of the host. Instead, she looked at Xiao Hua. Xiao Hua looked around as if he wanted to memorize every Fortune Gate disciple's appearance in his mind. A moment later, he spoke again. "Disciples, this old man will not betray your trust. We believe in the sect master." The group of disciples shouted in unison, their momentum soaring like a rainbow. Xiao Hua looked at these disciples for a long time. He wanted to say something, but his throat seemed to be blocked, unable to say a word. After a long while, Xiao Hua bowed and said, "This old man thanks all of you for sacrificing for the Fortune Gate. Master." The group of disciples was shocked and hurriedly knelt and kowtowed. But Xiao Hua waved his hand and stopped all the disciples, saying, "You don't need to return the greeting. All of you are qualified to receive this old man's bow. Your actions will definitely be recorded in the history of the 3 mainlands and leave behind our Fortune Gate's legend in the 4 continents. Yes, we will not betray Master's trust." The group of disciples didn't dare to disobey. All of them straightened their backs and answered. Their voices soared high into the sky, shattering the clouds in the 9 heavens. Their voices fell into the western sea, causing waves to rise. Perhaps the brush of history couldn't record the names of millions of Fortune Gate disciples, but their names were engraved in the 4 continents. Fellow Taoist lightning. Xiao Hua waved his hand and threw the Kunlun mirror to the lightning Taoist who was holding Princess Qingqing's hand, saying, "I'll have to trouble you to take away all the disciples who should leave. They want to create a new situation for our Fortune Gate in the 10,000 demon world. They are also our Fortune Gate's heroes. Also, take away the descendants of the Confucian cultivators, Buddhist sect, demonic beast race, and dragon race." Yes, the lightning Taoist took the Kunlun mirror and flew to the side with Princess Qingqing. Black Bear, White Lion, Golden Eagle, and other demonic beast race disciples, Xiong Yi, Li Xiang, and other human race disciples, and even some dragon race and sea race disciples were already waiting. As for the descendants of the other 3 mainlands, they were also waiting at various places in the Yuanxi Reef. Little White. Xiao Hua glanced at the little white dragon beside the black bear. The little white dragon hurriedly flew over and answered. Big brother Xiao Hua frowned and asked, "7-colored sea god shell?" "Old ancestor, she." The little white dragon looked around and whispered, "She doesn't want to enter the Kunlun paradise. She wants to follow behind Big Brother." "Oomph." Xiao Hua sneered and glanced at the sea in the distance, saying, "She still hasn't given up and wants to negotiate with this old man. I'm afraid she wants to take more descendants of the sea race to the 10,000 demon world. Forget it. If she doesn't want to go, this old man won't force her." "Wait a moment." I'll let the lightning Taoist take her into the Kunlun paradise. But Big Brother, the little white dragon, said with difficulty, if this little brother's memory can't be unlocked, this little brother can't help Big Brother. Xiao Hua sneered and said through voice transmission, when Big Brother saw the seven-colored sea god shell that day, he wanted her help to find a passage to another world, but she didn't want to help at all. That day, Big Brother didn't care and casually promised her that if there was a chance to go to the 10,000 demon world, he would take her with him. That day behind this promise, it was Ming Hua, not her. However, she didn't value this promise. Although she treated you well and saw you as her descendant, she still used you as a bargaining chip and wanted to bargain with Big Brother. This kind of scheming is what Big Brother hates the most. Moreover, Big Brother later used your mouth to invite her again. He also had the idea of asking her to protect the Fortune Gate's disciples in the 10,000 demon world. But today, it seems that she is too calculative and even a little vengeful. Big Brother is afraid that when we go to the 10,000 demon world, she will make a move on the Fortune Gate's disciples as soon as Big Brother leaves. Rather than that, it is better to let her stay in the three mainlands. Chapter 4765. All right. The little white dragon seemed to have some understanding of the seven-colored sea god shell's personality. Hearing Xiao Hua's words, he nodded without any hesitation. Then this little brother will listen to Big Brother. When we reach the 10,000 demon world, even if this little brother's memory is not very clear, I will definitely help Big Brother find the spatial passage. Since you know the name of the spatial passage, we can ask around when we reach the 10,000 demon world. Xiao Hua smiled. You don't have to worry too much. Yes, Big Brother. The little white dragon nodded with a smile and then flew down. At this time, Feng Wu and Buddha Mithra had returned and were sitting in the Fortune Palace. The news of the Fortune Gate's sect master and 10 elders gathering was not spread. Other than Lu, Yi, and the other disciples did not know about the Fortune Gate's sect master. Xiao Hua's figure landed in the Fortune Palace, and a group of avatars flew up from the Fortune Throne. He smiled and said, "Should we leave?" "Yes." Xiao Hua smiled. "When fellow Taoist lightning returns, we will set off." Not long after, the lightning Taoist held the Kunlun mirror and flew back to the Fortune Palace accompanied by Princess Qingqing. Xiao Hua took the Kunlun mirror and activated the light pillar. He looked around and said, "Fellow Taoists, please return to the Kunlun paradise." "Thank you, fellow Taoist." Feng Wu and the others nodded and flew into the Kunlun mirror. In a moment, only Wen Chu, lightning Taoist, Xiao Hua, Princess Qingqing, and Princess Zixia were left in the Fortune Palace. "Qingqing, take care." The lightning Taoist looked at Princess Qingqing and said, "I will be back soon. You must listen to the Wisdom Palace Master and Princess Zixia." TSK. Princess Qingqing's eyes turned red and she rebuked, "You speak as if I am a child. Come back early." "Okay." The lightning Taoist did not show any affection and his figure flashed into the light pillar of the Kunlun mirror. Xiao Hua put away the Kunlun mirror and said to Wen Chu, Princess Zixia, and Qingqing, "From now on, the Fortune Gate is in your hands. Fellow Taoist, rest assured." Wen Chu smiled. "With this king here, it is as if you are here. Darling Xiao, be careful. Go quickly and come back quickly." Princess Zixia lightly bit her lips and gave a simple instruction. Princess Qingqing said indifferently, "Don't worry, sect master. I'm still waiting for Lei Ting to marry me. Who would dare to act rashly? Then please sit on the thrones of creation." Xiao Hua raised his hand and shook it. A bolt of lightning descended, and the 10 thrones of creation rapidly shrank into 3. "No." Princess Zixia shook her head and said, "I am not qualified to sit on the throne of creation. Xiaolang, please take back your order." "Don't worry." Princess Qingqing yelled in a sarcastic tone, "I've already promised Lei Ting that I won't interfere in the Fortune Gate's internal affairs unless the Scholar Palace Master wants me to. Go ahead and take a seat." Princess Zixia didn't answer. Instead, she looked at Xiao Hua and shook her head. All right. Xiaohua looked at Wen Shu and said, then I'll have to trouble fellow immortal to sit high above. Ha, no problem. Wen Shu laughed and sat on the throne. The thrones of creation flickered and turned into one. Boom! As Wen Shu pointed his finger, the Fortune Dao Palace above disappeared, revealing the West Sea's high sky and white clouds. Then, Wen Shu, Xiaohua, Princess Qingqing, and Princess Zixia landed above the Origin Dusk Reef. Disciples. Xiaohua looked at the black mass of heads and fervent gazes on the ground. He raised his hand and said, this old man will be leaving. I'll leave the West Sea and Fortune Gate to you. Farewell, Elder Sect Master. The disciples bowed and said, we wish Elder Sect Master success. Ha! Good. Xiaohua laughed loudly. His figure flickered, and he soared into the sky. I'll take your blessings. This old man will be back soon. Xiaohua turned into a thunderbolt and soared into the sky. With a wave of his hands, a crack appeared in the void. Xiaohua's tall and thin figure turned back to look. His gaze not only fell on Princess Zixia, but also fell on Lu Yi and the other disciples. His gaze even fell on the boundless waves of the West Sea. Then, with a flicker, he disappeared into the void. Jinren Xiao. Just as Xiaohua entered the void, several faint ripples appeared in the sky, and a black and white halo gushed out like a fountain. The figure of the seven-colored sea god Shell flew out of the light and shadow, and hurriedly shouted, Jinren Xiao, please wait. Xiaohua's figure that had already disappeared reappeared. He looked at the seven-colored sea god seashell indifferently and asked, what else do you want? The seven-colored sea god seashell was a little embarrassed. She didn't expect Xiaohua to ignore her hint and leave as soon as the 10 days were up. At this time, she opened her mouth but didn't know what to say. If you don't have anything, don't waste my time. Xiaohua's body surged with strange fluctuations again. He said impatiently, I'm in a hurry to go to the 10,000 demon realm. Daoist Xiao, the seven-colored sea god seashell hurriedly said, I can't go to the 10,000 demon realm with you. No, Xiaohua replied. Daoist Xiao, the seven-colored sea god seashell, smiled bitterly. It's not that I want to hide the fact that little white dragon seal is not completely broken. It's just that those seals were specially sealed by Minghua. I'm not completely sure. No need to say more. Xiaohua interrupted the seven-colored sea god seashell and laughed. It's not important. I don't have much time now. I can try now. The seven-colored sea god seashell hurriedly gave in. Maybe I can break Little White's final seal. I only need to delay Daoist Xiao for 3 days. It would be a lie to say that Xiaohua wasn't worried about Little White Dragon's seal. Seeing that the seven-colored sea god seashell agreed to help Little White Dragon break the seal, Xiaohua couldn't help but hesitate. I'm not asking to go to the 10,000 demon realm with you. The seven-colored sea god seashell took advantage of the situation and said, I only ask that Daoist Xiao can bring Bei Ming's original body back to the 10,000 demon realm. Because Bei Ming's original body hasn't shown any signs of awakening or growth for so many years, he must have left a clone in the 10,000 demon realm. Only by merging the original body with the clone can Bei Ming wake up. Xiaohua hesitated. He could ignore the seven-colored sea god seashell, but he couldn't ignore Minghua. After all, Minghua was the founder of Shanghuaming sect, and Bei Ming might be the person Xianwan was looking for. After thinking for a moment, Xiaohua nodded and said, Okay, I'll give you 3 more days. Thank you, Daoist Xiao. The seven-colored sea god seashell was overjoyed and said, Please come with me with that. The seven-colored sea god seashell turned into a black and white rainbow bridge and rushed to a place in the West Sea. Xiaohua looked back at Wen Shu, who was sitting high on the throne of creation, and Princess Qingqing and Princess Zixia on both sides of the throne. He smiled and waved his hand, and also turned into a rainbow and left. Chapter 4766. 3 days later, in the West Ocean, Xiaohua soared into the sky again. Behind him, the seven-colored seashell turned into a human form and waved goodbye with a helpless face. The seven-colored seashells plan was very good. She also knew that Xiaohua was soft-hearted. As long as she said more gentle words, Xiaohua might agree to her conditions and take her to the 10,000 demon realm. Xiaohua naturally fell into the seven-colored seashells plan and easily agreed to the seven-colored seashells conditions. However, when the seven-colored seashell completely broke the seal on the little white dragon, it meant that the seal was gone and the memory would slowly recover. Only then did Xiaohua begin to fulfill his promise. However, when Xiaohua took out the Kunlun mirror and first collected the offspring of the seven-colored seashell, he suddenly found that no matter how Xiaohua activated the Kunlun mirror, he could not take her into the space. The seven-colored seashell was angry at first, thinking that Xiaohua was going back on his words. However, after Xiaohua thought carefully and told her his guess, she understood. Back in the Thousand Demons Sacred Realm, the Rainbow Sea God Seashell had used her innate ability, the Great Rainbow Halo Shell World, to trap Xiaohua. Inside the Great Rainbow Halo Shell World, Xiaohua couldn't be sensed by the Kunlun Immortal Realm, let alone the Kunlun Immortal Realm. Today, the Rainbow Sea God Seashell with the Great Rainbow Halo Shell World naturally couldn't sense Xiaohua. After knowing the reason, the seven-colored seashell was speechless. Unless she gave up her special ability, she could not enter the Kunlun Wonderland at all. However, in a remote area, the Rainbow Sea God Shell had been stripped of its sea god bloodline by the divine punishment. Her Great Rainbow Halo Shell World could no longer be used. Her innate god art was no longer an innate god art. The seven-colored sea god shell couldn't leave the three continents and go to the 10,000 demon realm for this innate ability that couldn't be used at all. It must be said that the heavens played a big joke on the seven-colored sea god shell. The seven-colored seashell had no choice but to entrust the offspring that had been taken into the space to Xiaohua, and then give the infant Bei Ming to Xiaohua before sending Xiaohua out of the West Ocean. Senior, don't worry. Xiaohua stopped in the air and smiled. As soon as I reach the 10,000 demon realm, I will find the place where Bei Ming used to live according to the little white dragon's memory, and send him to find his clone. Moreover, I will find a suitable place for your offspring, and the offspring of the little white dragon to survive in the 10,000 demon realm. The seven-colored sea god shell thought for a moment and said, "The little white dragon's seal has been broken, but I'm not sure when it will recover. Moreover, no one knows the current situation of Bei Ming's clone. You must ensure Bei Ming's safety first." Senior, I don't have much time. Xiaohua thought for a moment and said, "Junior will do his best to follow Senior's instructions, but if there isn't enough time, Junior can only guarantee to bring back Bei Ming's infant body in one piece." Xiaohua's the seashell. Xiaohua's seashell. Farewell. Xiaohua cupped his hands and turned into a rainbow as he flew towards the West Ocean Dragon Palace. However, a faint smile appeared on Xiaohua's face after the seven-colored sea god shellfish flew far away. If it weren't for the fact that he was worried that the seven-colored sea god shellfish would harm the fortune gate on the Yuanxi Reef Plain, Xiaohua would have ignored the seven-colored sea god shellfish that had appeared at the last moment. But even if Xiaohua agreed, how could he let the seven-colored seashell stay in the 10,000 demon realm with Li Xiang and the other fortune gate disciples? Xiaohua flew for a while, and his body began to flicker with lightning and inexplicable fluctuations. Then, two golden hands filled with lightning pulled at the void, and a void passage appeared. Xiaohua flashed into it, and when he came out, he was already in the Thousand Demons Sacred Realm, the demon realm filled with devil chi. The mysterious origin space's space escape technique is really amazing. Xiaohua looked around and said in admiration. Moreover, the space escape technique's understanding of space law is unique, which is not available in the three continents Daosex. Fellow Taoist Huang Tong's cultivation. I can't compare. Haha. Just as Xiaohua's voice fell, Huang Tong flew out from Xiaohua's space and laughed. Fellow Taoist Xiao is too humble. Although I have been comprehending space law, ever since I entered the mysterious origin space and cultivated the space escape technique, my understanding of space law is far inferior to yours. In particular, your sense of direction in the void is really unparalleled. Even in the mysterious origin space where there are countless space domain experts, no one can compare to you. With this talent, you also know the pure escape magics of 5 elements, the rare escape magics of wind and thunder. Oh, and the escape magics of light, which I have never heard of before. Only when all these magics are put together can you accurately cross countless space and reach this place. Fellow Taoist Shao, with your current space escape technique, even in the mysterious origin space, you are now the #1 space expert. No one can compare to you. Hee. Xiaohua urged his body and flew towards the depths of the demon realm. He laughed and said, "I's other abilities may be worse, but when it comes to escape techniques, it's still that." However, before Xiaohua could finish his words, he suddenly stopped. His expression changed greatly as he looked at Huang Tong in surprise. Then, he looked at Huang Tong again. Just as Xiaohua's expression changed, he was also shocked. He almost subconsciously shouted, "Quick, fellow Taoist Xiao, there's a change in space." Damn it, Xiaohua cursed. His body was instantly filled with lightning. Huang Tong's body swayed and stopped again. Her phoenix eyes were like lightning as she looked at the void in the distance and smiled bitterly. "Xiaohua, according to our previous discussion, I need to roughly determine the direction of the 10,000 demon realm first. Then we can go together. Now that there is a change, there is not much time to confirm. Although after you transform, I can control your body, but in the void, I can't move freely. It is better for you to control. Everything is up to you now." While speaking, Xiaohua's body had already begun to fade. The lightning gradually turned into lightning and covered the surrounding void. Xiaohua nodded and said, "Fellow Taoist, don't worry. You are me, and I am you. We have already practiced in the Zhaohua Palace before, so there should be no problem. Fellow Taoist, don't be careless." Huang Tong's body swayed and fell into the lightning that had already faded. She shouted, "The 10,000 demon realm and the 3 continents are worlds. The laws of heaven and earth between the worlds are completely different from the previous practice in the void." Huang Tong entered Xiaohua's body. Woo-woo. A gust of wind mixed with a roar of thunder was born in the air. "Jie!" A phoenix cry that shook the surroundings rang out. Xiaohua had already transformed into the shape of a phoenix, stretching out his neck and crying out. Chapter 4767. Immediately after, Xiaohua's phoenix claws flashing with lightning and golden light grabbed at the void, and a crack appeared in the void. Xiaohua's wings flashed, and he fell into the previously immature realm. Now, the realm was completely different from before. Where Xiaohua's figure landed, tens of millions of space vortexes had already appeared. These space vortexes were either big or small, and in the center of each vortex, there was a black and white light spot. The space vortexes expanded rapidly, pulling the entire realm into the light spot. The entire space was filled with distorted light and chaotic fluctuations. A destructive aura overflowed the entire space. Looking at the previously seemingly endless edge of the realm, now more than half of it had already transformed. Layers of fluctuations were surging towards the center of the realm like a tide. Every time there was a fluctuation, there would be many vortexes. What was special was that after the tide, there was a powerful and vast dark color. This color was the realm's power that Huang Tong mentioned. Now, the realm's power was chaotic, and it surrounded the entire realm. Xiaohua's divine sense swept over and immediately understood that this realm was not fully mature. Under the tearing of the 3 continents' realms, it was already extremely unstable. That day, in order to ambush Xiaohua, the nether demon dragon spider had already used its spatial ability between this realm and the 3 continents. This spatial ability inevitably allowed the spatial laws of the 3 continents to seep into this realm. The spatial laws of the 3 continents disturbed the spatial laws of this realm, and then destroyed the spatial structure of this realm. Later, when Xiao Hua and the others fought here, the spatial structure was damaged again. The most fatal thing was naturally the suppression of the great array of the 9 regions, which completely destroyed the spatial laws of this realm, causing the collapse and annihilation of this realm. That day, when Xiao Hua and Huang Tong came to observe, because the collapse had just occurred, it only evolved at the edge and did not affect the entire realm. Many places had even begun to heal by themselves. When the collapse began to slowly occur, the destruction of the realm gradually began to accelerate. Xiao Hua rushed over now. If he was a day and a half later, he was afraid that he would not even be able to find this springboard to the 10,000 demon realm. Xiao Hua did not dare to be negligent. He hurriedly flapped his wings, and thousands of thunderbolts were born from his wings. They fell in the collapsed realm and immediately destroyed the vortexes within 100 miles. At the same time, the warped shadows and chaotic fluctuations were instantly swept away, and a copious, vast, upright, and dignified will of lightning enveloped the surroundings. Swoosh, swoosh, swoosh. Xiao Hua's pair of wings flapped again. This time, wave after wave of strange runes gushed out like a tide. These runes were actually like little tadpoles, falling into the lightning brush and instantly disappearing without a trace. However, there were also some tadpoles that turned into light and shadow and gradually began to distort. At the same time, a thick, pitch-black color gushed out from the surrounding lightning. The power of the realm had begun to attack the power of lightning. Quick! Inside Xiao Hua's body, Huang Tong hurriedly urged. Xiao Hua flapped his wings again, and runes poured into the void like a river. Half a meal's worth of cultivation technique. Xiao Hua actually began to tremble. The space within 100 miles around him also began to shrink rapidly, and vortexes began to appear one after another. Ga. Once again, Xiao Hua let out a phoenix cry. His sharp claws appeared out of thin air, flashing with dazzling lightning. Within this lightning, there was a dazzling brilliance. The brilliance flashed rapidly with an indescribable rhythm. Pooh! The lightning claws pierced deeply into the place where the runes were pouring in. Ka. The void was torn apart, and layers of destructive realm aura gushed out from the cracks. Xiao Hua's divine sense swept out, and he became anxious again. This was because within the cracks in the void, there were no gorgeous colors like before. There were only layers of pitch-black shadows. An unparalleled force emerged from the shadows and rushed towards the spatial cracks where Xiao Hua was located. Damn it! Xiao Hua cursed and hurriedly asked in his heart, "Fellow Huang Tong, what should we do?" Xiao Hua. Huang Tong's voice was also filled with bitterness. She helplessly replied, "This is the result of not being able to find the realm dimension. Without the realm dimension, the space escape technique cannot be used at all. Is there nothing we can do?" Xiao Hua was really unwilling. After preparing for so long, how could it end here? The power of the collapse of the realm is too great. Huang Tong replied, "The space laws of this realm have already been destroyed. Within the chaotic space laws, I don't have any good ideas. Unless we can escape from the space laws. But now that we are in this realm, how can we escape from the space laws?" Hearing this, Xiao Hua's heart moved, and he proudly said, "Haha, others may not be able to do it, but I can definitely do it." After speaking, Xiao Hua's figure once again flashed with lightning. His wings flapped, and he rushed into the spatial cracks. No! Huang Tong was shocked and said, "Without the realm dimension, entering the void is a path to death." That unfortunately, before Huang Tong finished speaking, his voice was slowly stretched even in Xiao Hua's heart. Xiao Hua urged his spiritual power to use the thunder escape technique. A series of shadows appeared on the spot, dragging their distorted bodies into the spatial cracks. The pitch-black shadows were like moths to a flame. The strange thing was that when the thunder escape technique reached its limit, circles of light spots appeared around Xiao Hua. Although these light spots were pitch black, in Xiao Hua's eyes, they were different shades of black. It was like the sky after a strong wind, covered with clouds. Moreover, within these light spots, layers of different fluctuations rushed out from different light spots. Of course, at this time, there were many gaps between the fluctuations. Seeing that there were gaps, Xiaohua was overjoyed. He opened his mouth again, and one by one, green seal characters rushed out. The obscure screams of gods and ghosts seemed to rush out from the abyss. The green seal characters actually gave birth to a very faint passage in the space laws. Wisps of black and white brilliance rushed out from the surroundings and fell on the outline of the passage. Xiao Hua's body, which had already reached its limit, stepped on the passage. His eyes lit up again, but he saw strands of gorgeous colors from the other side of the passage. These colors fell into Xiao Hua's eyes and turned into scenes. It could be a huge mountain range, or a deep forest, or a flying spirit clan. Wasn't it the scene of the 10,000 demon realm? Xiao Hua's body trembled slightly, clearly due to excitement. He took a deep breath. Ga. Another hiss sounded. Unfortunately, this hiss didn't make any sound. Then, Xiao Hua's claws clawed at the passageway. Swoosh! A jagged crack instantly rushed from one end of the passageway to the other. At the same time, an incomparably enormous force emerged from the left side of the light spot. As the light spot collapsed, all the light shadows retreated towards the other end of the passageway. Although Xiao Hua's figure didn't move, it also seemed to be retreating at extreme speed. Not good. Xiao Hua was shocked. He knew that if he withdrew from the thunder escape technique, the realm dimension of the 10,000 demon realm would disappear. Chapter 4768. Ka. Xiao Hua didn't hesitate to use his space escape technique again. Layer upon layer of runes gushed out once more, and wherever the lightning passed, the space cracked once more. Xiao Hua's entire body felt as if it was being suppressed by a huge mountain range. Even moving half an inch took a great deal of effort. Ga! Another unyielding cry rang out. This time, as the sound spread out, the nearby space was shaken to the point of shattering. As Xiao Hua's wings flashed with difficulty, he charged into the crack in space that was on the verge of collapse. Xiao Hua's figure fell into the crack, and a strange scene in the crack reappeared. It was completely different from the space escape technique he used in the realm before. A distorted and abnormal passage appeared in front of Xiao Hua. On the four walls of this passage, signs of annihilation intertwined with scenes of the 10,000 demon realm. There were even scenes of the mountains and rivers of the three continents. When these scenes fell on the passage, the four walls rippled like water waves. Whoosh whoosh. Xiao Hua's figure flashed like a stream of light in the passage. The light and darkness intertwined and instantly covered thousands of miles. Behind him, the sounds of collapsing followed. The thick pitch-black shadow rushed over like a tsunami. After a while, the four walls of the passage became thinner and the five colors became more intense. However, an aura more majestic than the collapse force behind him gradually approached. Xiao Hua understood that this was the space barrier of the 10,000 demon realm. When he looked at the passageway again, he saw that it was becoming increasingly distorted. Moreover, the passageway was of varying sizes. Even the runes on the walls of the passageway earlier were emitting cryptic fluctuations, ingeniously blocking the mountain-like vastness of the passageway. Good. Xiao Hua's heart calmed down slightly, but it was only for a moment. Boom, boom, boom. The five colors in the distance were quickly annihilated, and the pitch-black color appeared once again. It quickly swallowed all the colors and rushed towards Xiao Hua. The originally thin passage instantly collapsed, and only the outline of the passage was left, like the branches of a big tree swaying in the berserk power of the boundary. Damn it! Xiao Hua was shocked. His figure was almost blown to a halt by the incoming power of the realm. Xiao Hua cursed inwardly and suddenly turned his head around. Not far from him, another kind of realm power was chasing after him even more rapidly than before. Moreover, this realm power also carried a strong sense of destruction. Comparing the two realm forces, Xiao Hua naturally made a choice. He flapped his wings crazily. The strange runes also rushed out crazily. A strange force formed in the space, breaking open a gap in the realm force. Xiao Hua's figure rushed into the gap. Boom! Xiao Hua's figure fell into the gap. The two forces of the boundary collided with each other, like two huge waves in the sea. Roar, destruction, darkness, light. In an instant, death and rebirth coexisted. Everything burst forth. Xiao Hua only felt his body tighten. Two unparalleled forces hit his body at the same time. No matter how much he urged his transcendence energy, he wanted to block this force. However, all of his defenses collapsed and shattered under the power of this realm. A wave of unstoppable dizziness hit him. Xiao Hua immediately sank into complete darkness. Fortunately, although Xiao Hua lost his will, the outline of the passage still existed. Xiao Hua's figure was backtracked by the realm force and gradually drifted into the realm barrier of the 10,000 demon realm. After an unknown amount of time, Xiao Hua finally woke up. Hum 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 hum. A series of earth-shattering sounds that sounded like the roar of a mountain and the roar of a tsunami still reverberated in his mind and ears. Xiao Hua opened his eyes. He couldn't see the scene in front of him at all. An indescribable fainting made everything in his eyes shake. There was even kind of nausea that he hadn't experienced for a long time, crazily rolling in his body. Xiao Hua wanted to release his spiritual sense, but it was also unstable. Moreover, as soon as it rushed out of his body, Xiao Hua felt his body was spinning and couldn't stop at all. Damn it! Xiao Hua knew that he didn't have much time. Burning with anxiety, he hurriedly wanted to urge his spiritual essence. However, as soon as he urged his spiritual essence, Xiao Hua felt that something was wrong. Because his spiritual essence was also spinning, he couldn't control it all. Helplessly, Xiao Hua closed his eyes and withdrew his spiritual essence. Xiao Hua just closed his eyes when bursts of pain came from all over his body. See, Xiao Hua couldn't help but take a breath of cold air. After all, his physical body had been tempered to a terrifying degree, and he hadn't been injured for many years. The realm force. Xiao Hua couldn't help but sigh. This is the power of heaven and earth. If it wasn't for this Zhao's physical body being comparable to the great saint of the demon clan, I'm afraid I would have fallen outside the realm today. Ouch! Thinking of this, Xiao Hua became anxious again because he couldn't tell where he was now. Xiao Hua wanted to think about what had just happened, but his mind was spinning rapidly, making it impossible for him to calm down and think. In a moment, Xiao Hua gave up. After a full 3 days, the nausea in Xiao Hua's chest gradually disappeared, and the churning in his mind gradually calmed down. Although his divine sense still didn't dare to leave his body, Xiao Hua still opened his eyes. Ka! Before Xiao Hua could clearly see the scene around him, a clear cry resounded above his head. A fierce force was born from several hundred meters away, and it attacked towards the space between Xiao Hua's eyebrows. Oomph! Although Xiao Hua couldn't see anything, he knew clearly in his heart that he didn't know what had happened. He coldly snorted and didn't open his eyes. When the force came closer, he immediately clenched his fist and punched towards the sky. See, Xiao Hua couldn't help but grimace as the pain in his body greatly reduced the force of his fist. However, even so, after a boom, sound of an explosion, GAGA, was heard, followed by a series of muffled sounds of flesh being torn apart. Finally, with a PU sound, it was as if a heavy object had fallen to the ground, causing a series of splashing sounds. This place is probably not the void. Hearing these movements, Xiao Hua thought to himself. His heart settled, and then he slowly opened his eyes. The first thing that entered Xiao Hua's eyes was a gloomy sky. The sun was shining with boundless heat, and it was hanging there. Around the sun, there were thick dark clouds covering the sky, as if a storm was coming. Seeing the familiar sky, Xiao Hua's heart couldn't help but thump, thinking that this was bad. When he hurriedly propped up his upper body with difficulty and looked around, his heart instantly turned cold. Chapter 4769. It was a quagmire, and Xiaohua was lying on the edge of the quagmire. A huge black and white vulture was still struggling in the center of the quagmire. The turbid, muddy water and the vulture's flesh and blood splashed in all directions. Looking around the quagmire, there were tall vines and shrubs. The tangled branches and lush leaves covered the nearby hills. Further away from the hills was an ancient forest. The ancient forest looked very deep, and some whirlwinds blew out from the forest, lifting layers of fallen leaves. Damn it! Is this still the Thousand Demons' sacred realm? Xiaohua looked at this scene and immediately thought of some of the places he encountered when he transformed into the python dragon. He couldn't help but curse. Xiaohua unwillingly released his divine sense again. Who knew that as soon as he released his divine sense, his mind would become dizzy again? The upper body that had just propped up fell into the quagmire again. Fellow Taoists? Xiaohua urged his mind to enter the space, but at this time, the space seemed to be spinning. Xiaohua's mind couldn't find the space no matter what. After trying a few times, Xiaohua helplessly gave up. This was the result of the collision between the two realms. As long as he ignored it, he would probably slowly recover. After closing his eyes for a long time, Xiaohua opened his eyes and looked at his body that was half under the quagmire and half above the quagmire. At this time, on Xiaohua's body, it could be said that there was no unscathed. Pieces of scars were exposed, revealing the traces of internal tears. Although these traces were already slowly healing, there were still some faint golden threads appearing between the tears, as if they were preventing the wounds from healing. Xiaohua couldn't use his magic power, so he naturally couldn't speed up the healing. After his gaze swept over, he just wanted to look elsewhere. However, when his gaze fell on a shrub that was at least 1,000 feet in size, he was suddenly shocked and once again looked at his body. How? How is this possible? Xiaohua saw his body clearly and couldn't help but tremble in his heart. He muttered to himself, I didn't use my transcendence golden body at all. How can my golden body be revealed? Moreover, I remember that I used my phoenix celestial body before. Even if I can't restore my human body, it has to be the phoenix celestial body. Just as Xiaohua was thinking about this, a gust of wind blew by, and then a golden light descended from the sky like sprinkles, and it enveloped the entire pool. Xiaohua was taken aback and unconsciously looked up. When he saw everything in front of him, he shouted in ecstasy, "Ha ha! Sure enough, this is the 10,000 demon realm. The 3 continents are saved." Xiaohua looked up and saw a golden sun that was only 30% the size of the previous sun appear from the dense clouds. A golden pillar of light sprinkled down on the earth. Wasn't he the Hao Yang that little white dragon mentioned? The golden light of the vast sun landed on Xiaohua's body, and Xiaohua felt a burst of coolness entering his body. The golden threads on the wound of the golden body flowed rapidly, and the wound that couldn't heal for a long time actually sped up. Realm of Demons. Sure enough, it's somewhat interesting. Xiaohua's heart moved, as if he had understood something. After half a day, when the clouds once again covered the sun, most of the injuries on Xiao Huajin's body had healed. The clouds covered most of the sky, and even the sun was hidden. Gusts of wind fell from the sky, and in a moment bean-sized raindrops fell with a pitter-patter. Xiaohua didn't want to move, but when he saw the filth of the quagmire gradually rising and drowning him, he could only slowly stand up. This standing still didn't matter, but the whole world spun again. Xiaohua's several hundred feet tall golden body staggered a few steps, and with a put-on sound, he half-knelt in the quagmire. He lowered his head to look at the quagmire, and a painful expression appeared on his face. In a moment, the raindrops had already turned into lines and fell down, and the entire pool was covered with fist-sized splashes. Looking at the vulture that attacked Xiaohua just now, it had already stopped struggling and fell dead in the pool, gradually submerged by the water. Seeing the water of the pool gradually reach his legs, Xiaohua once again took a breath, straightened up, and staggered towards the edge of the pool. Roar! Unfortunately, before he could get close to the shore, another beast roar sounded. From the mud of the pool, a grayish-black monster of 1,000 feet in size pounced out. That monster rushed out of the pool, and its long, beastly mouth bit towards Xiao Hua's waist. In the rain-soaked monster's mouth, there were fangs several feet in size, and they clearly revealed a dark green light. Damn it! At this moment, Xiao Hua was very weak, and he couldn't use any of his divine abilities. Moreover, when he waved his fist, the monster in his eyes actually showed signs of twisting and spinning, and his attack actually missed. The monster's mouth was about to bite Xiao Hua's waist. Xiao Hua didn't know the monster's strength at this moment, so how could he dare to let it succeed? He hurriedly dodged, wanting to dodge, but unfortunately, this dodge was actually in the wrong direction. His figure once again rushed towards the monster, and it was as if Xiao Hua himself was rushing over. But fortunately, without waiting for the monster's huge teeth to descend, Xiao Hua's leg stomped, and with a pung sound, he kicked the monster's neck. That monster was immediately kicked flying. Its 3,000 feet long body tumbled in midair, and the pool water and mud splashed high up into the air. Just as the monster flipped over a few times, boom, an explosive sound rang out, and the monster's 3,000-meter-long monster body exploded out of thin air. Xiao Hua's figure was unstable, and he couldn't control his strength. With this kick, just like how he dealt with Vulture earlier, the monster was killed in one blow. Seeing countless pieces of flesh and broken bones scattered around the quagmire, Xiao Hua took a deep breath, and with ethereal steps, he prepared to rush out of the quagmire. However, even such a small quagmire was actually filled with danger. Xiao Hua had only taken a few steps into the air when a gust of wind howled. In the distant quagmire that had previously soared into the sky, a huge python that was several hundred feet long rushed out again. The sinister python head spat out its scarlet tongue and pounced towards the scattered flesh and blood in the air. The long python tail even streaked across the air and whipped towards Xiao Hua's back. At the same time, swish, swish, swish. With a series of sounds, not only strange and ugly beast heads poked out of the quagmire, but there were also strange beasts in the mud around the quagmire, either long or square. Apparently, they were attracted by the smell of blood. Even the vines that were originally swaying in the wind suddenly expanded in the wind, pouncing towards the broken bones scattered below him. The world in Xiao Hua's eyes was still spinning. After his punch hit empty air, the huge python's tail precisely hit Xiao Hua's back. Xiao Hua's golden body slightly swayed, and he already had an idea in his heart. However, seeing so many beasts in the spinning world, he couldn't help but curse inwardly. Damn it. Chapter 4770. Then, Xiao Hua retracted some of his strength, raised his hand, and grabbed the tail of the giant python. Poof! His 5 fingers pierced deeply into the python's body, and blood splattered everywhere. Hiss hiss. The giant python was clearly in pain. It frantically twisted and turned, wanting to break free. Xiao Hua exerted strength with one arm. Hoo! The python's body swayed outside the quagmire. Pa pa pa! It sent the monsters that had just poked their heads out flying. Even the torrential rain was disrupted. The rain poured down, and there was no light or shadow in the whole world. There was only darkness and gloomy water light. Xiao Hua couldn't activate the golden light to protect his body. The rain poured down on him, completely drenching his entire body. Since he could not see the situation around him, Xiao Hua simply closed his eyes and used the giant python as a weapon, swinging it as he walked towards the edge of the quagmire. The giant python was still struggling desperately at first, but after a while, it became obedient, and no matter how Xiao Hua swung it, it did not move. Obviously, it was conquered by Xiao Hua's unparalleled strength. After walking for nearly half a cup of tea's time, Xiao Hua gradually felt that something was wrong, because he was originally at the edge of the quagmire and was about 1,000 feet away from the ground. If the direction was right, he would have stepped on solid ground at this time. This Xiao's luck can't be that bad, right? Xiao Hua shook his head, as if to shake off the turbulent sea in his mind, and when he narrowed his eyes slightly, he could not help but sigh. He really went in the wrong direction, and in just half a cup of tea's time, he had walked a lot deeper into the quagmire. Sigh. Xiao Hua sighed slightly and looked at the sloping shore. Just as he was about to take another step, he suddenly froze again, because the noise and the rain just now had completely disappeared, and the whole world was filled with the sound of hua hua. Hee. Xiao Hua smiled and squinted his eyes to look at the swaying quagmire on the left. Sure enough, after the monsters that suddenly appeared swallowed the scattered flesh and blood, they did not leave, but quietly looked at him, as if waiting for the best time to attack. Damn it, this Xiao is a human Mayana stage, although I don't know the situation of the peak strength of the 10,000 demon realm. No matter what, this Xiao is still a sun ranker. Xiao Hua didn't know whether to laugh or cry. He cursed in his heart. Now a bunch of low-class monsters are coveting it. This is what they mean by a dragon in shallow water will be toyed with by shrimps, and a tiger will be bullied by dogs when it goes down to the plains. Oh, you're much stronger than shrimps, but in this Xiao's eyes, what difference is there between you and shrimps? As he thought about it, Xiao Hua decided not to bother with the monsters who chose the right moment to attack. He dragged the python with him and managed to get his bearings before he staggered to the shore. Seemingly shaken by Xiao Hua's calmness, none of the monsters dared to act rashly. Seeing Xiao Hua's golden body slowly approaching the shore, all of the monsters suddenly pounced over, even denser than the rain falling from the sky. Sigh. Xiao Hua was somewhat helpless. He already understood that these were merely demon beasts. He reckoned that they couldn't even get into the ranks of middle or small spirits. Otherwise, they wouldn't be so lacking in intelligence. Since the demon beasts weren't afraid of death, Xiao Hua could only try his hand at it. The pitiful python was once again waved about, and like a soft whip, it streaked through the air, sending the smaller demon beasts flying. Pong! A moment later, a low sound rang out. Xiao Hua's hand tightened, and a huge force came from the python's body. Xiao Hua frowned and looked over again. He saw a thick vine actually extend from the ground, firmly hooking onto the python's body. Ha! Xiao Hua laughed. He used his strength to pull, and his entire body flew up. He landed at the edge of the quagmire and grabbed onto the vine. Whoosh, whoosh, whoosh. The vine fell into Xiao Hua's hand and unexpectedly had a slippery feeling. It twisted and turned, wanting to break free from Xiao Hua's hand. In fact, there were even hundreds of vines stretching out from the ground, like tentacles wanting to bind Xiao Hua. Rise! Xiao Hua growled. His arms exerted strength, and his body flew up from the quagmire once again, landing on the shore. At the same time, Xiao Hua shook his hand. The vine swayed, turning into a shadow, and sent the falling vines flying. Boom! Xiao Hua's body landed. The ground was full of mud, and it wasn't much better than the quagmire. However, Xiao Hua was still a human, and having his feet on the ground made him feel slightly more stable. However, Xiao Hua still thought too much. Without waiting for his body to stabilize, swoosh, swoosh, swoosh. Indescribable vines and strange demon beasts all rushed out from the ground, between the mountain rocks, and even from the cracks in the rocks. They pounced on Xiao Hua's golden body. Every demon beast's mouth was filled with flashing sharp teeth, and every vine had sharp thorns. Is there an end to this? Previously, Xiao Hua didn't kill indiscriminately except for the vulture and a monster because he didn't have enough strength. Now that he saw himself on the shore, there were still so many vines and monsters that didn't know the difference between life and death. If it was a normal situation, he could release his power and escape as much as he could. However, right now, he couldn't use any of his divine abilities and could only tangle with these little things here. His heart was also burning with anger. Roar! Xiao Hua roared. First, his hands clenched, and he grasped the vine in his hand. Boom! A deep gully was opened in the ground, and he pulled out a vine that was at least 10,000 feet long from the ground. Then he grabbed the vine with both hands and pulled it to both sides. Pa! The rattan was torn apart, and a light green and bloody liquid splashed out. Xiao Hua's hand could even feel the rattan twitching due to the pain. Oomph. Xiao Hua coldly snorted. With a wave of his hand, he threw away the 2 pieces of rattan. Then he took a few steps forward and kicked away a few roaring monsters that pounced at him. With a grab of his hand, he grabbed the other rattan that was whipping his waist. Boom! Another loud sound rang out, and this vine was lifted up again. Then in just a moment, dozens of vines were lifted up by Xiao Hua. The entire ground was also crisscrossed with ravines, and rainwater poured in like a river. While chopping the vines, Xiao Hua's legs weren't idle. He used ethereal steps and kicked away many monsters. Looking at Xiao Hua's awe-inspiring appearance, it was like punching a tiger in the south and kicking a flood dragon in the north. However, the more Xiao Hua fought, the heavier his heart became. It wasn't that there were no monsters in the 3 continents. When Xiao Hua transformed into a python and followed Shui Mingzi and the others to Bai Qingyu, he had crossed a part of the 1,000 Demons' sacred realm. Back then, even those as strong as Shui Mingzi and the other Daoist cultivators would have fallen under the mouths of the monsters in the 1,000 Demons' sacred realm if they didn't have Xiao Hua's help. And the monsters here were far more powerful than the monsters in the 1,000 Demons' sacred realm. Chapter 4771. With such monsters. No, with such spiritual creatures everywhere, whether it's my human race or the demon race, I'm afraid it won't be easy for us to survive. Xiao Hua thought as he pulled up a vine from the ground and made it into a whip. Huff huff. He waved the vine, then reduced his strength and tangled it with the spiritual vines and other spiritual creatures. In the time it took to eat a meal, under the mighty Xiao Hua's fists and feet, the area within a radius of several li had been cleared. Broken vines twisted on the ground like snake tails, and spiritual creatures that looked like round balls rolled on the ground, allowing the rain to wash them away. At this time, the dizziness in Xiao Hua's eyes did not improve in the slightest. There's really no meaning in fighting with you little things. Xiao Hua's eyes narrowed as he endured the shaking light in front of him. He threw away the vine in his hand and faintly muttered to himself. At this time, he had already roughly grasped the strength of these spiritual creatures. There were not as many spiritual creatures in the quagmire as on the shore. Their strength was roughly 2nd-grade essence energy, and the vines on the shore were similar to the spiritual creatures in the quagmire. As for those spiritual creatures that drilled out from the cracks in the rocks and the ground, they were only 1st-grade essence energy. Of course, these spiritual creatures were only small things in Xiao Hua's eyes, but to be honest, they were all 9th-level essence energy and even foundation-building cultivator strength. If placed in the Dawn Rain continent, they would be amazing existences. Compared to the danger here, the Dawn Rain continent's Ink Shadow Black Forest and Flame Forest Swamp could be considered carefree places. Xiao Hua threw away the vine, then immediately clenched his fist and vigorously punched the ground. Boom! With a loud sound, the entire earth trembled. A crack that was more than 10 zhang long appeared on the ground and rapidly spread towards the mountain peak and the quagmire. Shua! The crack spread to the quagmire, and some of the muddy water immediately poured down. Dozens of spiritual creatures that looked like fish monsters in the muddy water scrambled to escape, all of them frightened by the power of Xiao Hua's punch. At the same time, when the crack stopped on the mountain peak, several ancient trees fell, and the swaying vines weakly drooped down. For a moment, like before, the quagmire's surroundings were peaceful again. Oomph! Xiao Hua coldly snorted and shouted in the language of the 10,000 demon realm, "Calm down. I'm just resting here for a while. If you disturb me again, don't blame me for being impolite." While speaking, Xiao Hua didn't care if the nearby Fays understood. His golden body sat cross-legged on the ground and prepared to meditate. After all, his 5 senses weren't sensitive, and it wasn't convenient for him to go anywhere. Unfortunately, Xiao Hua was still disappointed. Just as he sat down, boom, 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 a series of low rumbling sounds came from afar. Moreover, the entire earth was slightly trembling. A kind of faint sound like a tsunami came from the distant night rain. Xiaohua was naturally unable to release his spiritual sense, but as a grand ascension stage Taoist, he still possessed keen senses, and his brows furrowed slightly as he cast his gaze toward the source of the voice. In the night, the rain danced wantonly. The undulating mountain ridge in the darkness was like an ancient beast desperately struggling to break free from the shackles of the earth. The ancient forest swayed left and right like a graceful woman. Patches of multicolored light inexplicably appeared in the pitch-black night, rapidly assaulting Xiaohua's vision. Wave after wave of water ripples enveloped the surrounding heaven and earth, once again forming an enormous passageway. Xiaohua shook his head, and the light projection before his eyes instantly disappeared. However, as soon as the light projection disappeared, a wave of dizziness and nausea welled up in Xiaohua's heart. Sigh. Xiaohua sighed and remained silent as he observed the situation. After the time it took to finish a cup of tea, the sound of footsteps rang out. The earth tremored, and the forest collapsed. Several black shadows over 10,000 feet in size emerged from the rain in the distance. Oh, so it's a mountain spirit. Xiaohua could just barely make out a mountainous black shadow approaching him, and he came to a sudden realization. This was very similar to the mountain spirit he had seen in the Star Moon Palace. However, it appeared that this mountain spirit was different from that mountain spirit. It was able to bring its main body with it. When Xiaohua turned his head to look again, he saw that there were 3 black figures of the same size walking over from afar and near him. It should be that punch of mine that attracted them here. Xiaohua smiled and stood up clumsily. Woo-woo. Right at this moment, another strange gust of wind blew, and the rain that was originally pouring down fell towards the source of the strange gust of wind. However, a transparent ball of water that looked like an octopus flew over in the wind and rain, and it seemed to be several acres in size. Oh, is this a water spirit? Xiaohua was surprised. This was the first time he had seen a water spirit. Ayo. The mountain spirit closest to Xiaohua was already approaching. It looked like a cheetah, and it was precisely the one that let out the most roars. Beside it, another mountain spirit looked like a multi-armed ape. On each of its 3 to 5 long arms, huge rocks bulged out, looking like the muscles on its arms. Oh, I understand now. Xiaohua's gaze swept over, and he came to a sudden realization. The main bodies of these mountain spirits are still unable to move. It seems that they have gathered the huge rocks nearby and used them as their shells. These mountain spirits must be envious of the spirit beasts running freely on the mountain peaks, so they transformed into their forms. Ayo. The sound of wind howling seemed to be the sound of howling wind. The cheetah-like mountain spirit had already discovered Xiaohua's existence, and an ice cold will swept over Xiaohua. The mountain spirit had already pounced over. The mountain spirit appeared to be enormous, at least several thousand feet tall. Wherever the mountain spirit passed, the ancient trees were all pushed down. The weaker-wood spirits fled in panic. Even the previously arrogant vines were hiding far away from it. Damn it, this is an unfair advantage. Xiaohua didn't know whether to laugh or cry as he stood up. He looked at the mountain spirit that was several times larger than him. The gust of wind attacking him could blow away the mountain rain, but how could it mess up the hair of a Mahayana cultivator? Not to mention that Xiaohua's hair was already wet from the rain. Xiaohua looked at the cheetah-like paw that was twisted and twisted in the air, and the howling mountain winds had already enveloped him. A faint smile appeared on his face, and he threw a heaven-shattering punch toward the gust of wind. Boom! A huge rumbling sound rang out, and then puff, 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 puff. Bursts of air waves and explosive sounds emerged from the cheetah's left paw, rapidly spreading towards the cheetah's body. The hard mountain rocks turned into powder one after another, and the powder was blown away by the fierce wind. Moments later, a mountain-like mountain spirit appeared from the dust. It was like a burly man who had suddenly been stripped of his clothes, and it stood there in a very embarrassed and dazed manner. Chapter 4772. Ao. The mountain spirit was originally in the shape of a mountain. After being at a loss for a moment, it suddenly roared again. Its entire body rapidly shrank, and finally, it turned into a rock that was dozens of feet in size and charged toward Xiaohua. Seeing the light and shadow overflowing from the rock, and the spiritual qi that was purer than the spiritual qi of heaven and earth condensing into thin threads, Xiaohua sneered. The impact of the mountain spirit was unparalleled, and it could even overturn mountains and seas. However, at this moment, Xiaohua's eyes were filled with disdain. Moreover, the mountain spirit in this state was a spiritual object refined by Taoist cultivators. Not to mention anything else, if Xiaohua refined this mountain spirit into the seal of overturning sea, the power of the seal of overturning sea would increase by a bit. Fortunately, Xiaohua was benevolent. If it was a spiritless object, he would have used it. Looking at this mountain spirit, Xiaohua couldn't help but think of the affectionate and righteous mountain spirit in the spatial spiritual world. Xiaohua's mind turned, and he raised his leg, kicking the mountain spirit that was charging towards him away. Rumble. Wherever the mountain spirit passed, rumbling sounds could be heard. No matter if it was an ancient tree or a mountain in front of him, they were all pierced through. G. At this moment, the other ape-like mountain spirit also pounced from another direction, and that mountain spirit's mouth also let out a sound similar to that of an ape. Unsurprisingly, this mountain spirit was also kicked away by Xiaohua in the end. However, this time, it flew straight up into the sky, and when it would fall back down was not something Xiaohua had to worry about. Ao. Although the mountain spirit was clumsy, at this moment, it also reacted. The other two mountain spirits stopped there awkwardly, and they looked at each other, not knowing what to do. Shua. At this moment, the water spirit that had previously absorbed all the rainwater within a few hundred miles had now turned into a huge octopus. Its water tentacles that were thousands of feet long streaked across the sky and fell towards Xiaohua. When the water tentacles fell into Xiaohua's eyes, countless colors instantly appeared, and endless colors rushed into Xiaohua's mind, causing him to stagger again. The water spirit was obviously more intelligent than the mountain spirit. Seeing Xiaohua like this, it became even more arrogant, and the tentacles hidden in the night sky madly pounced, wanting to tear Xiaohua to pieces. Xiaohua steadied himself and narrowed his eyes. He was about to throw out a punch, but when he heard the sound of the water spirit tentacles breaking through the air, Xiaohua smiled. He crossed his arms and stood there proudly. He looked at the tentacles indifferently and had no intention of fighting back. The water spirit naturally wouldn't try to probe Yonkai like a human, sending out several tentacles to smash him. Hong. The water that had condensed into tentacles was naturally no longer ordinary rainwater. When the water that was harder than mountain rocks smashed onto Xiaohua's body, it turned into fragments. Although Xiaohua's body did not flicker with golden light, he still did not receive the slightest bit of damage. Woo. The water spirit seemed to be angered by this humiliation and began to go berserk, its tentacles turning into threads of water that shot toward Xiaohua. The water silks enveloped the area around Xiaohua, and the mountain rocks and trees were reduced to dust. However, Xiaohua was too lazy to put up any resistance when he heard the power of the water silks that couldn't even tear the void apart. Chi. As the water silks fell on Xiaohua's body, they were unable to tear his skin. Xiaohua shrugged lazily. Thinking about how he had made such a big fuss just now, he couldn't help feeling a little amused. In the end, he simply sat down cross-legged and allowed the water spirit to attack. After the time it would take to brew a cup of tea, the water spirit's water silks continued to bombard Xiaohua's face, not even scratching an itch. The water spirit even tried to entangle Xiaohua with the water silks, but Xiaohua only needed to use a little strength to tear them apart. But a moment later, the water spirit took back its tentacles and water silks, its huge body rapidly shrinking, transforming into a ball of water several tens of meters in size. This ball of water slowly rotated in the air, sucking in the surrounding rainwater once more. At the same time, the rich world's yuan qi madly poured into it. However, as the ball of water gradually formed, a slightly terrifying aura emerged from it, causing Xiao Hua to open his eyes. So, without waiting for Xiao Hua's gaze to fall on the water spirit immediately turned into a streak of light and rushed into the distant darkness, disappearing from sight. The water spirit's escape was extremely sudden, not to mention the two stupid mountain spirits. Even Xiao Hua was baffled by its sudden escape. In fact, Xiao Hua was not looking at the water spirit, but rather at the sky, because at this moment, the amount of rain falling from the sky had decreased a lot. He didn't know whether it was because the water spirit had absorbed it or because the rain had gradually stopped. Bang, bang, bang. Following that, the sound of running could be heard again. The mountain spirit, who had transformed into a wild beast, was running away even faster than before. Amidst the rumbling sounds, fine raindrops started to fall from the sky once again. The world finally calmed down. Even the mountain spirits and water spirits were unable to shake Xiao Hua, so naturally the spirit creatures around the quagmire no longer dared to offend him. Xiao Hua was finally able to calm down and think about the current situation. Needless to say, this place must be the 10,000 demon realm. Xiao Hua closed his eyes. Inside his body, there seemed to be a small, rotating world. His thoughts were also coming out randomly. Although I encountered many dangers in the collapsing world at the boundary barrier, I'm finally here now. The collapse of the hidden realm of the 1,000 demons' sacred realm must have stopped immortal Emperor Go-chan, Ao, Jia, and even the Vairocana revered one from prying into my whereabouts. Even those who want to follow me will be disappointed. If this Xiao didn't know the space escape technique, if the Xiao didn't know how to travel in the opposite direction, if the Xiao didn't have a strong physical body, how could this Xiao have succeeded in reaching this place? However, we've arrived, but there was no way back. Previously, I was thinking of using that realm as a springboard. If I couldn't break the celestial formation, I could return to the 3 continents through that realm. Now, this idea was completely destroyed. Without a special technique or opportunity, it would be difficult to return. Of course, this was also a good thing. Without the space tunnel, the world-destroying ephemera could not reach the 10,000 demon realm. The descendants of the 3 continents human race, demon race, and dragon race should be able to continue to live and reproduce here. There are only 2 difficulties now. The first is that the 10,000 demon realm is too dangerous. Without an absolutely safe place, this Xiao can't send the descendants of the 3 continents out. Moreover, this 10,000 demon realm is different from the previous primitive desolation continent. There are many spiritual creatures here, and there are so many spiritual creatures around this small quagmire. The dangers of other places are unknown, and it is not realistic to set up a defensive formation for the human race. Also, the sea race and dragon race obviously have to be sent into the water, which is even more difficult to set up. Forget it. This Xiao should worry about the fortune gate first. Don't the other descendants have guards? This Xiao shouldn't get involved. Chapter 4773. The second difficulty is naturally how to find the space passage to the Dawn Rain continent. Xiao Hua thought to himself bitterly, this Xiao is not good at finding directions, and I just happened to run into 2 useless assistants. One has her memory sealed. Who knows when she will recover? The other has lived in the Heavenly Blessing Palace since young and only knows the general idea. Now it's even better. I just fell into the 10,000 demon realm and encountered a realm collapse. Who knows where I am now? According to the little white dragon, the 10,000 demon realm is several times bigger than the 3 continents. Where can I find it? Fortunately, this Xiao knows the space escape technique. I'll take a rest first, wait for my divine ability to recover. Then I'll go find it. Xiao Hua was secretly happy, but there was also a hint of sadness in his mind. After an unknown amount of time, a pa-pa-pa sound was heard in his ears. Xiaohua was slightly stunned and opened his eyes. The strange scene in front of him surprised this human Grand Ascension stage master. At this time, the 10,000 demon realm had disappeared. There was a clear and fragrant smell in the air, and the high sky was covered with stars. These stars were completely different from the stars in the three continents. Not only were they much denser, but the starlight was also vaguely colorful. Moreover, the stars were very large. There were some overlaps between them, and the colors intertwined, decorating the entire sky like a kaleidoscope. What was special was that in the corner of the starry sky, there were 3 moons of different colors hanging there, sprinkling different moonlight all over the earth. Xiaohua shook his head vigorously, rubbed his eyes, and tried to look again. Although the stars in the sky had disappeared a lot, the 3 moons were still there. The full moon in front of his head was neither big nor small. It was similar to the full moon that Xiaohua often saw, like water and ice. The moonlight was clear and milky white. The one slightly behind was a purple full moon. This purple moon was twice as big as the previous one. Moreover, the edge of the purple moon seemed to have a sun-like flame. This flame was called the eerie purple moonlight that was projected into the night sky of the 10,000 demon realm. Parallel to the purple moon was a dark golden moon. This dark golden moon was only 30% the size of an ordinary moon. Moreover, this dark golden moon was not very bright. A layer of dim golden light that was softer than the mist scattered across the night sky. Oh my! Xiaohua only looked at it for a moment and felt that the 3 moons began to rotate. He did not dare to look at it for too long and hurriedly lowered his head, muttering to himself, "The night of the demon realm is really beautiful." When Xiaohua lowered his head, he landed in the quagmire in the distance. At this moment, the quagmire was different from the previous intense battle. Layers of lotus-like spirit objects were already spread out. These spirit objects were only 40% of the size of ordinary lotus-like spirit objects. In the center of the spirit objects, there was something like a flower stalk. This flower stalk flickered with an extremely faint purple color. As the purple moonlight shone down, it slowly produced a faint purple brilliance. The sound Xiaohua heard earlier should be the sound of these flower stalks poking out. Looking at the other side of the quagmire, there were also inexplicable spirit objects poking out from everywhere. These spirit objects, without exception, were all flashing with purple light. Occasionally, there was also a faint dark golden light. Swish, swish, swish. There was also movement near Xiaohua. The vines that were torn apart by Xiaohua earlier were now secretly poking out from the ground. The broken vines were glowing like snow, and the wounds were slowly healing. Roar! A beast's roar came from the distant night sky. A pillar of purple moonlight fell through the sky and shrouded the area within 100 miles. Roar, roar. In another place, there was also a roar that was not to be outdone. Another pillar of dim, golden moonlight fell. Immediately after, countless sounds were produced. Endless pillars of moonlight and stars completely shrouded the earth. Even the quagmire where Xiaohua was filled with an even richer purple moonlight. Xiaohua did not use his martial arts, but when the purple moonlight fell, he did not need to use his martial arts at all. It quickly penetrated Xiaohua's skin, and a faint warm current mixed with a trace of wild aura poured into Xiaohua's body. No wonder it's called the 10,000 demon realm. Xiaohua secretly nodded. The energy of heaven and earth here is so rich. The power of the stars and moon at night is 10 times stronger than the 3 continents. Isn't this the demon race's paradise? Thinking of this, Xiaohua's heart was a little vigilant. After all, the laws of heaven and earth in the 10,000 demon realm were different from the 3 continents. The energy of heaven and earth here was so rich, and the power of the stars and moon was even more tyrannical. Maybe the heaven-ranked powerhouses here had surpassed the limit of 9th-level elemental energy. Of course, at this time, Xiaohua suddenly thought, didn't the rainbow sea god Shell say it clearly that day? Beiming's strength is much stronger than mine. Although I did not reach the peak of 9th level elemental energy at that time, I can still infer that Beiming's strength may have exceeded 9th level elemental energy. From Dai Er's words, Beiming is one of the great sages in the 10,000 demon realm. In other words, there are great sages that are as powerful as Beiming. These great sages are all great sages that surpass the 1,000 demon realm. However, a moment later, looking at the gradually rotating halo in front of him, Xiaohua proudly said, "So what if it's 10th level elemental energy? In order to avoid the laws of heaven and earth in the 3 continents, I have already concealed my cultivation in the Star Moon Palace. If I remove the immortal talisman, how can my strength not be 10th level elemental energy? Even if it's the great sages of the 10,000 demon realm, if they block my path, I will still kill them. When I recover my divine power tomorrow, I will immediately look for the space passage." Then, Xiaohua's 5 hearts faced the sky, and he rested. Unfortunately, Xiaohua's wish was beautiful and his ambition was praiseworthy, but he rested for more than 100 days. At the beginning of this 100 days, Xiaohua was quite anxious because there was not much time left for him, only 100 years. And he had just left the 3 continents, and he had already wasted more than 100 days in this inexplicable corner of the 10,000 demon realm. Xiaohua struggled several times to leave the quagmire, but every time he walked a distance, he would return dejectedly. The damage caused by the collision of the realms was not only on his physical body, but also on the changes in the laws of heaven and earth. The 3 continents, the 10,000 demon realm, and the immature realm's laws of heaven and earth interfered with each other in his body. How could it be eliminated in a short time? Xiaohua almost thought that he would have to spend another 10 years, or even decades, to recover. 10 days later, Xiaohua saw that the rotation in his body had no intention of recovering. So he simply gave up escaping and took the initiative to immerse his mind into the rotation to comprehend, to see if he could find a suitable opportunity to stop the rotation. The mountains were extremely tall, the rivers were extremely deep, the ancient trees were extremely huge, and the forests were extremely dense. Everything was somewhat similar to the 1,000 Demons sacred realm, but everything was 30% or even several times taller. Xiaohua's divine sense swept across the area, and he could already see many spiritual creatures nearby. Some of these spiritual creatures were roughly at grade 4 or 5. Although they did not dare to make any strange movements under Xiaohua's pressure, when his divine sense swept across, these spiritual creatures were still arrogantly roaring, as if they wanted to challenge him. That's strange. Xiaohua withdrew his divine sense and frowned slightly. He thought to himself, if it's as dire as said, then these 4th or 5th grade elemental powers should be some kind of earth rank powerhouse. Why do they look like they don't have any intelligence? Could it be that they weren't considered demons? They weren't considered spiritual creatures, but just beasts? Then, Xiaohua raised his hand and waved, tearing the void apart. Then, his figure flashed and flew into it. However, after a short while, Xiaohua flew out of the void with a strange expression. He looked around and was a little surprised. Then, he tore the void apart again. But after a short while, he flew out again and shouted, "Damn it, what's going on? Why can't I use the space escape technique?" After standing for a moment, Xiaohua activated the teleportation technique, and his figure immediately disappeared. When he appeared again, he was already 1,000 miles away. It's a little strange. Xiaohua scratched his head and said curiously, "I can't use the space escape technique, but I can use the teleportation technique. Why is that?" Xiaohua pinched his chin and thought for a moment. He already had an answer. However, after thinking for a moment, he still released Huang Tong. Once Huang Tong was released, the huge phoenix demon body was immediately fully revealed. Her figure could not be controlled at all and started to spin again. "Xiaohua," Huang Tong said anxiously, "why did you call me out again? Fellow Taoist, don't be anxious." Xiaohua chuckled and said, If we wait for the laws of heaven and earth to calm themselves down, who knows how long it will take. Let this poor Taoist lend you a hand. Don't. Huang Tong did not dare to open her eyes, but she felt that the entire world was spinning. She hurriedly shouted, "This is the chaotic laws of heaven and earth. How can you help me? Can't you see that I'm fine?" Xiao Hua looked at the spinning Huang Tong with a smile. Huang Tong roared, "How can I see you? Besides, if you want to help, why don't you let all the other fellow Taoists come out?" "Why help me?" "It's very simple," Xiao Hua said with a smile. "They're all in the space, not in my body. Right now, I can't enter the space, so I can only help you." Previously, Xiao Hua and Huang Tong had discussed that from a safety point of view, it was best for the Thunderbolt Immortal, Feng Wu, and the other doppelgangers to stay in Xiao Hua's body and not enter the space. There was a risk that the space would not be able to sense them. However, later on, when they had to cross the space barrier, the two felt that Xiao Hua had to transform into the Phoenix demon body. The doppelgangers hiding in the body would be a burden. It was better to let them enter the space. Of course, in the end, the two did not decide what to do. They just waited until they reached the space barrier. Who knew that before they could enter the space barrier, Xiao Hua would find that the space barrier had collapsed. The two did not even have time to discuss the other doppelgangers before they rushed into the space barrier. Therefore, when they reached this place, other than Huang Tong and Xiao Hua's body, the other doppelgangers stayed in the space. All right, Huang Tong said helplessly. "You can try first." "Okay." When Xiao Hua saw Huang Tong agree, he immediately calmed his mind and transmitted his thoughts to her through his mind. At first, Huang Tong did not say much. Her entire demonic body was still spinning around Xiao Hua. 2 days later, Huang Tong suddenly let out a clear cry. She flapped her wings and rushed into the distance. Xiao Hua was shocked and hurriedly wanted to remind her. Unfortunately, he started too late. Boom! With a loud sound, Huang Tong's demonic body hit a mountain peak. Her valiant phoenix body blew off a mountain peak. However, after a moment, Huang Tong spread her wings again and rushed into the sky. Although the flight path was still flipping and shaking, it was obvious that she had a tendency to control herself. Chapter 4775. Xiao Hua. Huang Tong cried out in surprise in Xiao Hua's heart. "I have to say, you are really a cultivation genius. Do you know what you are comprehending? This is the supreme law of heaven and earth in the Xianyuan space." Yi Jian only comprehended 2 halts out of the 10 halts, and he was able to break out of the Xianyuan space. But you actually comprehended 3 laws of heaven and earth at the same time. Are you still human? "AI, poor child." Xiao Hua proudly smiled. "You've been away from home for far too long, so long that you don't even know it yourself. That's because there's a heavenly Tao avatar in our space. Aside from cultivating Taoist techniques, I also have a way to comprehend the heavenly Tao. This Xiao has already broken away from the heaven-piercing realm previously and entered the heaven glimpse realm. Now, because I've witnessed the heaven and earth laws of the 3 worlds, I've mastered all my previous accumulations through a comprehensive study, advancing the heaven glimpse realm a step further. What a heaven glimpse! What a heaven glimpse! Huang Tong was happy and spread her wings for thousands of miles. She said to Xiao Hua in her heart, "I wonder what other amazing realms are there." Xiao Hua thought for a moment and shook his head. "These realms are all mysterious and can only be understood and not explained. I am only using human language to explain and cannot express the true meaning. Of course, if I had not reached that step, I would not know how to name it. Perhaps I had gained something before, but it was all nonsense." Huang Tong had already disappeared, but there was a clear connection in Xiao Hua's heart. Even his mind could clearly sense Huang Tong's position. The secret technique of twin breath has made a substantial breakthrough. Xiao Hua slightly sensed the position of Huang Tong and immediately rejoiced. He smiled and said, "If we cultivate for another 100 years, the mind of Shao and the 8 fellow Taoists should be able to completely cover the hidden immortal continent. At that time, we should be able to lay out the 9 regions' great array. Just as Xiao Hua thought of this, Huang Tong's scream sounded in his heart. Xiao Hua, quickly help me. Ah! Xiao Hua was stunned. His figure flashed, and he immediately teleported to the place where Huang Tong disappeared. Xiao Hua appeared in the void and saw a strange beast twice the size of Huang Tong in the sky. It was standing on a demonic cloud and charging at Huang Tong. The strange beast looked like a python dragon, but it had a pair of bone wings that were over 10,000 feet long. On the bone wings, there were thousands of bone spikes that shone with a pitch-black brilliance under the sunlight. The beast's claws landed on Huang Tong's left wing. Huang Tong quickly flapped her wings, and strange runes appeared, tearing the void to the left. Bursts of spatial power came from the cracks and swept toward the beast. Under normal circumstances, Huang Tong's move would have blocked the beast's attack. But at this moment, Huang Tong's body was swaying. She couldn't control her direction at all. Just like how Xiao Hua bullied the weak, this attack didn't hit the beast at all. Instead, it missed and rushed towards the ground. It obviously missed. Seeing that the beast's claws were about to pierce Huang Tong's back, Xiao Hua immediately rubbed his hands together. Rays of crystal light fell into the lightning hand. Then, with a rumbling sound, a hand that was several times bigger than the lightning hand used on the 3 continents appeared out of thin air. Not only was the hand of lightning powerful, but it also carried a kind of anger and madness. Before the hand even landed, the space under the hand had already been restricted. Many pitch-black vortexes appeared in the void and tore the strange beast's body apart. The giant hand even squeezed the strange beast's body until it was distorted. Roar, roar. The strange beast howled crazily and struggled with all its might. Many barbs grew out of the bone spikes and attacked Xiao Hua's lightning hand. At this time, the lightning hand not only had lightning, it also had gold and purple light. These lights hit the bone spikes, and the pitch-black bone spikes instantly turned into powder. A strange beast with 7th level essence power. Xiao Hua used his power to grab the strange beast and unconsciously frowned. In his heart, he said to Huang Tong, "This is the most powerful strange beast I've ever met." What's going on? In other words, Xiao Hua's expression suddenly changed. Lightning surged around his body, and his body trembled. With this trembling, Xiao Hua's lightning hand instantly collapsed. The strange beast with 7th level essence power suddenly broke free and tried its best to fly into the sky. Its bone wings flapped a few times and disappeared into the sky. "Xiao Hua, what's wrong?" Huang Tong saw the change and hurriedly shouted. Xiao Hua didn't say anything. He raised his right hand to signal Huang Tong to shut up. Then, he used a Tao technique to draw the heaven and earth essence energy of the 10,000 demon realm into his body. The 10,000 demon realm naturally had heaven and earth essence energy. When this heaven and earth essence energy entered Xiao Hua's body, there were ripples in Xiao Hua's lower dantian. Although these ripples were not big, they were enough to disturb the nebula nascent soul. Looking at the nebula nascent soul refining the heaven and earth essence energy without any special changes, Xiao Hua patted his head again. Boom! A brilliance bloomed like a lotus platform. The rank 8 scattered nascent soul stepped on the brilliance and appeared in the space. Pa. The 8 tribulation scattered nascent soul was originally invisible, but at this time, the scattered nascent soul's entire body seemed to grow bigger and bigger. In a moment, it was already hundreds of feet tall. It was actually similar to Xiao Hua's golden body. Moreover, as the 8 tribulation scattered nascent soul grew, a layer of strange marks appeared on the surface of the invisible nascent soul. Every time a mark appeared, the scattered nascent soul's body would boil violently, as if its hair was being cut off and the marrow was being cleansed. When the marks covered 50% of the nascent soul's body. Rumble. High in the sky, the 2 suns emitted enchanting sunlight. Layers of thunder began to spread under the sun. Point 9. Ninth tribulation? Xiaohua was dumbfounded. He didn't expect that the ninth tribulation of the scattered nascent soul would be born here. How is this possible? When the scattered nascent soul has passed the ninth tribulation, it has already reached the realm of flesh in the spirit. It can replace the laws of heaven and earth in the tribulation and wait for ascension. But this is obviously not a suitable sign for ascension. Xiaohua narrowed his eyes and looked at the sky. Although the sky was changing, there was no trace of ascension aura at all. Moreover, opposite the two suns, 3 moons were also revealed. The merciless moonlight was also attracted to the nascent soul's body. The figure that was originally invisible was now more and more clear. This is the minor tribulation of the Xianyuan space. Just when Xiaohua was surprised, Huang Tong exclaimed, How? How can there be one in the 10,000 demon realm? What is a minor tribulation? Xiaohua hurriedly asked. Chapter 4776. Xianyuan space is a space composed of many interfaces. Outside of these interfaces, which is the edge of Xianyuan space, there is a space similar to the interface barrier. First, we have to break through the spatial barrier of the Xianyuan space. We have to break through this barrier before we can reach this space. The heavenly tribulation that is born in this space is easier than breaking through the heavenly tribulation of the entire Xianyuan space. Therefore, it is called the minor heavenly tribulation. Oh, I understand. Xiaohua thought for a moment and nodded. That is to say, the interface of 10,000 demon realm is not the same as the interface of the 3 continents, but half a grid higher, or even less than half a grid. Therefore, the stage 8 scattered nascent soul has to go through a minor heavenly tribulation to adapt to the heaven and earth origin energy here, to adapt to the laws of heaven and earth here. I guess this is also the reason why I waited until here and couldn't recover. With that said, Xiaohua looked at the lightning in the sky and frowned. It is nothing for my stage 8 scattered nascent soul to go through a minor heavenly tribulation here. But what if the scattered nascent soul returns to the 3 continents? Will it immediately face the real major heavenly tribulation? No need to think too much. Huang Tong smiled. The minor heavenly tribulation can be seen as a preview of the major heavenly tribulation. Don't you see the marks on the surface of the scattered nascent soul? That seems to be the mark of the laws of heaven and earth. The minor heavenly tribulation here is less powerful than the major heavenly tribulation. And after going through the minor heavenly tribulation, the immortal chi in the scattered nascent soul's body may be richer, and then the power of the major heavenly tribulation will be much smaller. Yes, I understand. Xiaohua nodded. This minor heavenly tribulation is equivalent to reducing the power of the major heavenly tribulation, but there are more tests inside. There are advantages and disadvantages. Fellow Taoist is right. Huang Tong replied. Xiaohua smiled bitterly. The problem is I don't want to go through any minor heavenly tribulation now. I just want to quickly find the space passage to Xiaoyu continent. And I release my nascent soul, just to let this nascent soul explore the abnormality of the heaven and earth origin energy in 10,000 demon realm. Xiaohua, isn't there a saying in the human race that haste makes waste? Don't worry. Huang Tong comforted. Let's take one step at a time. All right. Xiaohua thought for a moment and said, Since you want to go through heavenly tribulation, then let's go through heavenly tribulation together. I don't have the time to let you transcend the tribulation one by one. As he spoke, Xiaohua released the other 100 or so stage 8 scattered nascent souls. More than 100 rank 8 scattered nascent souls appeared together. The 2 suns and 3 moons suddenly swelled up. Moreover, the lightning that filled the sky rapidly thickened. A huge vortex appeared in the sky above the lightning. Thick lightning pillars crazily smashed down. The entire world was roaring. Sure. More than 100 scattered nascent souls teleported to within a radius of 1,000,000 miles. A huge capital sky star formation was formed. In the sky, lightning spread rapidly. Huang Tong laughed and said, "In that case, I will join the fun too." With that, Huang Tong opened her mouth and spat out a mouthful of demonic qi. The 100 beast flag also fell into the air. The 99 demonic beast souls were interspersed between the 100 scattered nascent souls. A strange fluctuation appeared above the demonic beast soul, and this fluctuation rushed into the void. Boom, boom, boom. Amidst the rumbling, the sky around the huge vortex was torn open again, and the stars that filled the sky were revealed. 99 pillars of stars suddenly fell down, covering the demonic beast soul and also protecting the 100 scattered nascent souls. It covered the entire capital sky star formation. While Xiao Hua was worried about his nascent soul undergoing the minor heavenly tribulation, he was also frowning as he looked at the vast land within 1,000,000 miles. His mind was filled with a myriad of thoughts. Although he had suddenly released these 100 nascent souls to undergo the minor heavenly tribulation, he also wanted to use this method to attract all the demon clans within 1,000,000 miles. He wanted to test them and intimidate them. But now, seeing that the minor heavenly tribulation was about to fall within 1,000,000 miles, other than the trembling demonic beasts, no other demon clan flew out. It's really strange. Could it be that there are no demon clans in the 10,000 demon realm here? While Xiao Hua sighed and was puzzled, the minor heavenly tribulation of the 10,000 demon realm finally fell. For a total of 49 days and nights, the thunderbolts continue to strike. Layers of pitch-black realm power and the power of laws that Xiao Hua was familiar with also rushed into the bodies of the 100 scattered nascent souls in the arena. It washed away the remaining traces of the 3 continents and began to condense the spirit bodies and change the rules in the spirit bodies. The 99 demonic beast souls in the middle of the thunderbolts also quickly condensed into light pillars of stars and moons during this period of time. Each demonic beast soul also borrowed the power of the thunderbolts to reach the point where Yin gave birth to Yang and reincarnate from death. If there were any special opportunities, they could really be reborn as real demonic beasts. When the thunderbolts and clouds dissipated, it was another starry night. Xiao Hua kept the scarred, scattered, nascent souls. Huang Tong waved the 100 beast flag to keep the demonic beasts. The two of them looked at each other with helplessness in their eyes. Huang Tong said, "Xiao Hua, it seems that we are unlucky. Although we have arrived at the 10,000 demon realm, we have arrived at a desolate place. Otherwise, with such a big movement, the demon clan would have come to investigate long ago." "This is not the worst news," Xiao Hua replied. "The worst news is the 10,000 demon realms heaven and earth origin qi is different from the 3 continents. It is not particularly suitable for the human race. It should be said that it is very suitable for the dragon clan. When the heaven and earth origin qi falls into the meridians of the human race, it is very easy for the meridians to burst. Even if the heaven and earth origin qi is refined, when it falls into the lower dantian, it will cause changes. It will make the golden core unstable and the nascent soul irritable. The reason is that there is a problem with the 2 suns and 3 moons in the sky. If this problem is not solved, our human race will not be able to survive in the 10,000 demon realm. It is probably because of this that there is no human race in the 10,000 demon realm. Our Fortune Gate disciples. If we were to take root here, I am afraid it would be extremely difficult. Why would the Fortune Gate disciples take root in the 10,000 demon realm? Huang Tong asked meaningfully, why would we use the 10,000 demon realm instead of the Shenhua continent? Fellow Taoist may not understand what I mean. Xiao Hua's mouth was a little bitter as he replied. Previously, I also had the intention of sending all my disciples to the Shenhua continent. But there are 3 problems. First, the Fortune Gate disciples in the Soaring Dragon Mountain range are different from the original Fortune Gate disciples in the Shenhua continent. They are exposed to different laws of heaven and earth. I don't know if they can cultivate smoothly in the Shanhua continent. Without waiting for Xiao Hua to finish, Huang Tong shook her head and said, since the laws of heaven and earth in the Shanhua continent are different, the laws of heaven and earth in the 10,000 demon realm are even more different. You are not worried about leaving them in the 10,000 demon realm? Chapter 4777. The Shanhua continent is not fully formed. Xiao Hua explained, I know that the space is changing every moment. Because of the impact of the three laws of heaven and earth, there might be other changes in the space. Therefore, instead of putting the disciples of the soaring Dragon Mountain range in the Shanhua continent, it is better to put them in the mature world. Huang Tong naturally did not know about the changes in the space, so he just nodded and did not speak. Secondly, Xiao Hua's gaze became a bit deep, and he even said with a bit of guilt, fellow Taoist might not know, but this Xiao is very soft-hearted. To put it bluntly, I indulge my disciples a bit. There are many things that I can't be strict with. Yuan Tong Tian and His Highness Lan are two bad examples. Jiang Hong. How do I say it? I want to tell her directly several times, but I couldn't bear to see her suffer. I know that with the little white dragon in front of me, I won't let my disciple be the master of the West Sea Dragon Palace, but I can't bear to attack Jiang Hong. I think Jiang Hong has seen through this, so she's been fighting for it. This made me feel very conflicted. So when I saw the Mahavajra Buddha the last time, I want to take Yuan Tongtian's soul and place it in my own space to nurture it. Wouldn't that be 100 times better than leaving it with the Mahavajra Buddha? But I also know that I feel guilty about Yuan Tongtian, and I am afraid that it will not be easy to train his rebellious nature. So I simply handed this matter to the Vairocana Buddha. If the disciples of the soaring Dragon Mountain range come to the Shanhua continent, I am afraid that Xiao Hua, you are really a very good person. You really don't deserve to be the sect master. Huang Tong said deeply. Look at Jiang Haochen in the Xinyuan space. Without needing Huang Tong to say more, Xiao Hua naturally understood what he wanted to say. Xiao Hua helplessly waved his hand and said, cultivation can be improved with cultivation, but this character is really hard to change. So I basically don't make any decisions in the fortune gate. Everything is left to Lu, Yi, and the others. Speaking of Lu, Yi, Huang Tong's eyes were smiling. These children are all good. I don't know how you found them. How I found them? Don't you already know? I didn't hide the details of these disciples from you. Xiao Hua replied. No. Huang Tong shook her head. What I meant was, how did you have such good luck to find such a good disciple? Just based on their final choice, I feel that in the entire 3 continents, no one can compare to them. Forget it. Let's not talk about it anymore. The more you talk about it, the heavier my burden becomes. Xiao Hua waved his hand and said, the third reason is our ascension. He remembered that in the Star Moon Palace, Senior Su Ji and Fairy Xing, you had said that when they ascended, ordinary cosmos bags, Dharma treasures, and other items could not be brought up to the immortal world. This was because the laws of heaven and earth had to change, and the immortal spirit Qi had to be reconstructed into the array formation. Ordinary Dharma treasures could not withstand the immortal spirit Qi because of their material. Even for a divine item like the Kunlun mirror, I'm afraid that the Kunlun wonderland within it would need to be reconstructed. Therefore, I cannot guarantee that the Shanhua continent will not undergo any changes. If there is a change, the disciples of Shanhua continent should be able to follow the changes of the entire realm because they have the laws of heaven and earth. However, the disciples of the soaring Dragon Mountain range might not be able to. I understand. Huang Tong nodded and said, then you have to make a choice between the laws of heaven and earth in the 10,000 demon realm, the persecution of the strange beasts in the 10,000 demon realm, and the changes in the space of Shanhua continent. Yes, there has to be a choice. Xiao Hua sighed and said, what do you think? Don't ask me. I don't understand these things. Huang Tong flapped her wings and said, your choice is my choice. Don't you have any suggestions? Xiao Hua asked unwillingly. After all, You have been to the mystic space and have seen a lot more than me. Fellow Taoist, don't laugh at me. Huang Tong pursed her lips and said, Fellow Taoist, you have also brought the disciples of the Fortune Gate and other fellow Taoists to the upper realm. Aren't you more knowledgeable than me? If you have something to say, you should discuss it with them more, right? Huh. Xiaohua's mind had already sensed the blurry space. He knew that under the minor tribulation of the 10,000 demon realm, the laws of heaven and earth in the space had begun to stabilize. Feng Wu and the others will be able to come out soon. He smiled and said, Then let's wait a few more days. We will discuss it together. I think there will be a good way. The heaven and earth's origin energy is different from the three continents. Our human race can't cultivate. Then what about other things? Huang Tong gradually began to consider the three continents and couldn't help but ask. Xiaohua smiled and said, Fellow Taoist, please wait a moment. After he finished speaking, Xiaohua raised his hand and patted the top of his head. A 5-colored true qi gushed out and formed 5 lotus-like clouds above his head. The clouds were born, and countless noble qi fell down with a loud rumble. A huge body was gradually formed. However, this body was somewhat different from the three continents. It was not the image of a scholar, but the image of a general. Xiaohua's body rushed into the sky and galloped for a moment before returning to his body. Xiaohua shook his head slightly and said to Huang Tong, What Confucian cultivators use is noble qi. In the end, it is also a kind of spiritual qi. However, Confucian cultivators can use this spiritual qi to deposit the human race's history and thought in the world for future generations to use. There is a similar spiritual qi in the 10,000 demon realm. Let's call it noble qi. However, there was no human race in the 10,000 demon realm before, so the noble qi did not have the precipitation of the sage's thoughts. Without the accumulation of thousands of years of culture, there is no characteristic of Confucian cultivators. Of course, this noble qi can be used to cultivate Xiantian true qi. Also, the righteous spirit of the 10,000 demon realm focuses on martial arts, while the righteous spirit of the three continents focuses on political governance. In this respect, the Immortal Palace's militarists should be like fish in water. Hearing this, Huang Tong already understood. He nodded and said, A new world naturally has a new order. A new world also has a new beginning. Everything is uncertain and unknown. However, since the 10,000 demon realm is named demon, the power of the stars and moon lives up to its name. Yes. Xiaohua looked down at his golden body and then looked at Huang Tong's demon body. He replied, Because the 10,000 demon realm has 2 suns and 3 moons, the stars in the starry sky are twice as dense as the 3 continents. The power of the stars and moon is, of course, several times stronger. Moreover, from the looks of our Dharma bodies, the laws of heaven and earth in the 10,000 demon realm are also biased towards the demon race and not the human race. Buddhas, 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 Buddha, Buddhas is Buddhas, Buddhas is Buddhas is Buddhas, Buddha, Buddha, Buddhas, Buddha, Buddha. After Xiaohua withdrew the Buddhist light, Huang Tong smiled and said, I didn't expect that you could only reveal a female bodhisattva here. Buddha's Buddha, 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 Buddha. Xiaohua had already understood and explained, I have achieved fruition in the realms of the 3 continents. Naturally, I can reveal my true form in the 3 continents. But this is not the realm of fruition. Since I am here, the image of Namamethriya Buddha is naturally Buddha's Buddha. Moreover, I have just seen that this 10,000 demon realm does not have the original power of faith, that is, there is no Buddha's light. It seems that those guardian heavenly kings who escorted the Buddha here will have merit. Hee. Huang Tong smiled and flapped her wings in the air. She laughed and said, This merit actually belongs to you, fellow Taoist. Xiaohua smiled but did not answer. This was because when he released the Buddha's golden body, he had already sensed the change in the crystal godhead. It was a kind of light of faith at the edge. as long as Xiao Hua released the Buddhist disciples and Confucian disciples. This light of faith would immediately flourish, and the crystal godhead would definitely increase. Seeing that Xiao Hua did not speak, Huang Tong also knew that the Dharma should not be passed on. She was from the demon tribe and had nothing to do with the Buddhism sect, so he would not ask. She looked around and said, "Fellow Taoists, you have opened up a paradise for the cultivators of the ruins on the untainted land. Let me help you today." "Thank you." Xiao Hua cupped his hands and smiled. Then, Huang Tong spread her wings and rushed into the sky. An overwhelming aura was like the rising sun. As she flew high, it spread throughout the entire world. After half an hour, Huang Tong had disappeared from Xiao Hua's eyes. Even Xiao Hua's divine sense could not detect Huang Tong's aura. However, Huang Tong's voice still sounded in Xiao Hua's heart. "Fellow Taoist, something is not right. There are demonic beasts everywhere. There is no peaceful place. Moreover, the sky of the demon realm is different from the three continents. There is no earth, fire, wind, and thunder. Oh, or perhaps the sky is very high and I have not come into contact with the earth, fire, wind, and thunder." Within 1,000,000 miles, there were no particularly powerful demonic beasts before. Xiao Hua frowned and asked in a low voice, "Could it be that this place is not suitable?" Just as Xiao Hua asked this question, a kind of warning suddenly emerged from the bottom of his heart. Then, an incomparably gloomy and cold consciousness, even colder than the wind of the netherworld, swept over from afar. Xiao Hua cried out in alarm without thinking, "Not good." Then, Xiao Hua activated the wind escape technique and flew into the distance. In a moment, he had disappeared. As soon as Xiao Hua moved, the cold and gloomy consciousness seemed to have noticed the abnormality. It immediately chased after Xiao Hua, closely following behind him. After the time it took to eat a meal, Xiao Hua was still unable to get rid of the consciousness behind him. Xiao Hua was shocked and immediately activated the thunder escape technique. However, after hearing the roar of thunder, Xiao Hua accelerated again, that when the cold consciousness heard the sound of thunder, it immediately stopped. It seemed to be shocked, but then the cold consciousness seemed to be angry and madly rushed in the direction Xiao Hua disappeared in. However, after a moment, the consciousness retracted and then rushed into the sky to find Huang Tong. Xiao Hua did not dare to stop and flew for half an hour. During this time, there were also a lot of consciousnesses that rushed out, wanting to stop Xiao Hua. However, these consciousnesses were much weaker than Xiao Hua. Xiao Hua did not hold back and released his pressure. As long as he encountered any obstruction, he would immediately kill them. These consciousnesses were so scared that they did not dare to chase. Damn it! Xiao Hua's figure stopped at the peak of a mountain. He looked back with some lingering fear. Above his head, Huang Tong also flew out from the void. Her face, which had always been arrogant, also had a kind of panic. What kind of demonic beast is this? Could it be that it has already surpassed the 10th grade of origin energy? Give it as a reward, and thank you for all forms of support. Chapter 4779. I don't know what kind of demon race it is. Huang Tong retracts her wings and agrees, but I know that this is a strong opponent that I have never met before. I don't know about other divine abilities, but just from this will alone, I might have found more than one. This will is filled with a kind of instinct. Xiao Hua ponders for a moment and shakes his head. It's far from the intelligence of an ordinary spirit race or demon race. It should be a kind of demon beast. Oh my, a demon beast comparable to a 10th grade essence power? Huang Tong's originally retracted wings suddenly explodes. She exclaims, "Xiao Hua, you let more than 108th grade loose nascent souls go through the minor heavenly tribulation in front of other people's door. Now that I think about it, we are really tired of living. If other people came out at that time, this minor heavenly tribulation, whether they can pass or not is another matter. Since it dares to come out, let it also taste the taste of the minor heavenly tribulation." Xiao Hua laughs coldly. "Forget it." Huang Tong laughs. How can you bear to let these quasi-ninth tribulation loose nascent souls deal with demon beasts? If these loose nascent souls return to the three continents, most of them can pass the major heavenly tribulation and enter the immortal world. At that time, they will be your powerful backup. The problem is, Xiao Hua has nothing to hide from his clone. He says in his heart, how can 109th tribulation loose nascent souls pass the tribulation? That's the major heavenly tribulation for ascension, not the minor heavenly tribulation just now. Won't 109th tribulation loose nascent souls crush the corresponding world passage of the three continents? From the memory that fellow Taoist passed to fellow Taoist seems to have asked Senior Su about the soul cleansing pool, right? Huang Tong is indeed on his side. Her smile also carries a kind of wretchedness, a kind of deep meaning. I don't know. Xiao Hua laughs and waves his hand. We will talk about this later. Right now, we also need to ask for help without saying this. Xiao Hua's mind enters the space. However, just as Xiao Hua's mind enters the space, he is stunned again because a strange feeling arises from the bottom of his heart. Xiao Hua's mind hastily turned into a jade archive. Xiao Hua stood quietly in the void with his eyes slightly closed, sensing the changes in the entire space. Within this space, the various spaces that had yet to materialize, as well as the space where Shanhua continent was located, did not appear to be any different on the surface. However, Xiao Hua could vaguely sense that there were already different heaven and earth laws in different spaces. Although these heaven and earth laws were still in their embryonic form, the fluctuations were gradually gathering in the four walls of the space, forming a thin boundary barrier. Even these realm barriers were flashing with obscure, profound meanings in front of the three laws in the void that had yet to stop. Half a meal's worth of time later, Jade Archive Xiao Hua finally opened his eyes and looked at himself up and down. At this moment, Jade Archive Xiao Hua's image was much clearer than before. Jade Archive Xiao Hua clapped his hands and said, "Excellent. This is a blessing in disguise." After that, Xiao Hua didn't ask Taoist Sorcerer and the others to come out. He came out of the space himself. Where are my fellow Taoists? Huang Tong asked curiously. Xiao Hua stretched out his finger and waved his hand, asking, "Don't be anxious, fellow Taoist. Let me ask you a question first." "Oh, go ahead." Huang Tong was even more confused. "I've already passed all my memories to you. Do you still have any questions?" "Memories are memories. Comprehension is comprehension." Xiao Hua smiled and said, "This is different. I have a question now. You said that the Xianyuan space is an interface made up of different spaces, and the laws in each space are different. Then Yi Jian and Jiang Haochen's cultivation is comprehending different laws and cultivating different spatial divine powers? Why do you ask?" Huang Tong asked. "Because in our space, each space has already become a prototype of an interface, and each has formed a different law of heaven and earth." Xiao Hua answered in his heart, "I think. Does Shanhua continent already have the possibility of immortal ascension or the possibility of heavenly tribulation?" "Good." Huang Tong laughed and said, "Congratulations, fellow Taoist. It should be so." "Congratulations. Xiao Hua realized that he was right. Huang Tong explained, "The situation of the Xianyuan space is different from our space. Those spaces should be in the same interface, and the laws of heaven and earth inside are generally similar. There are only some slight differences, so every time Yi Jian breaks through a space, he doesn't have to go through heavenly tribulation. Only at the last moment will there be heavenly tribulation. Oh, of course, this is my own understanding. I'm not clear about Yi Jian's experience. As for the true appearance of the Xianyuan space, I don't even know." "Understood." Xiao Hua smiled and said, "No matter what, this is a good thing. If they can't find a suitable place in the 10,000 demon realm, Li Xiang and the rest can stay in the Shanhua continent. Of course, they can also go to the Xiaoyu continent. It depends on their own choice." Then Xiao Hua raised his voice and said, fellow Taoists, why don't you come out and see the scenery of the 10,000 demon realm? Ha! Who will wake up first in the dream? I know myself. Before Xiao Hua's voice fell, a bold and unrestrained voice sounded. The Thunder Immortal was showing off while flying out. Without waiting for the thunderclap, venerable to stand still in the air, rumble. Countless profound meanings appeared in the void and turned into thunderbolts that rushed into the thunderclap venerable's body. The thunderclap venerable's body suddenly expanded like a bubble. In just a moment, he turned into a colossus that was over 10,000 zhang tall. He actually looked a size larger than Xiaohua. However, the Thunder Immortal didn't have time to show off. He sat down cross-legged and quietly comprehended the profound meaning of thunder in the 10,000 demon realm. This guy, Xiaohua, looked at the Thunder Immortal and said, relying on the fact that he read a few more books in the Shenhua continent. When Chu wasn't here, he dropped his book bag. I really don't know what Princess Qing sees in him. Tortoise and mung beans, they just like each other. Huang Tong rolled his eyes and said, yes, fellow Taoist didn't find one in the Xinyuan space? Xiao Hua asked curiously, but he regretted it after saying it. This Huang Tong was different from Feng Wu. He had also experienced some of his own experiences. Why would he make such a joke with him for no reason? Sigh, once you've seen the sea, you can't see the water. Apart from Mount Wu, you can't see the clouds. Sure enough, Huang Tong sighed and said, Xiaohua, although I have the Phoenix Celestial Body, the Phoenix Celestial Body also has integrity. You can forget Fairy Hong Xia and find another Princess Xixia, but I can't forget the Ice Phoenix in my heart. Xiaohua was embarrassed. He stretched out a finger and pointed at Huang Tong in the void and said, Okay, don't let me see the Ice Phoenix Celestial Body. I will definitely tell her what you did in the Xinyuan space. Chapter 4780. Huang Tong shrugged and flapped her wings. She seemed to be laughing and sobbing at the same time. After a while, Huang Tong said, fellow Daoist Xiao, you want to say it, but can the Ice Phoenix avatar understand? AI, that's true. Xiao Hua sighed. Not everyone is as lucky as me, and not every bloodline avatar is as lucky as you. What a pity, what a pity. Huang Tong recited. When you were born, I was not born. When I was born, you were old. You hate that I was born late. I hate that you were born early. When you were born, I was not born. When I was born, you were old. I hate that we were born at the same time. When I was born, you were not born. When you were born, I was old. When I was away from you, you were separated by me. When I was born, you were not born. When you were born, I was old. When I turned into a phoenix, I went to find a phoenix. Every night, I stayed in the parasol tree. Good poem. Xiao Hua clapped. I didn't expect you to be comparable to the Thunderbolt Immortal. If the Ice Phoenix avatar heard this poem, she would probably pounce on you. This poem is ordinary. The Thunderbolt Immortal opened his eyes and said, I'll teach you one line. One line? Huang Tong asked curiously, which one? When your phoenix feathers reach your body, can I marry you? The Thunderbolt Immortal said. Xiao Hua smiled and pointed at the Thunderbolt Immortal. It's called, Why Worry About Breaking the Willow Village Bridge? Let be. The candle is gone. The song is dim. The cold chrysanthemum's soulless fragrance is hard to wither. Afraid of the Milky Way's high waves, the evening smoke is hot. Last year, the swallow returned to the nest early. The small building played alone to the moon. The red dress spread across the 10-mile bridge. The 1,000 miles of cloud mountain alone, the envy of the neighboring village. When my hair reaches my waist, is the young man from afar good? Accompany you for life? This is what Princess Qing taught you. I'm not telling you. The Thunderbolt Immortal closed his eyes and ignored the two. Ha! Fellow Taoist Thunderbolt is really interesting. Huang Tong laughed at the Thunderbolt Immortal's words. Since the Fortune Gate's second Old Master has come out, then please invite the fourth Old Master to come out. Xiao Hua smiled faintly. As soon as Namla Mithriya Buddha World Sovereign came out of the space, Buddhist light immediately overflowed. In the void, countless power of faith flowed like a gurgling stream and fell into Mithriya Buddha World Sovereign's body. Boom! Unsurprisingly, Mithriya Buddha World Sovereign's figure also swelled, and it also turned into a Dharma image with a big belly and a small face. Haha! The revered one of the world's Dharma idol looks like this? How strange, how interesting. Huang Tong had never seen Mithriya Buddha before. Now that she saw it, she couldn't help but laugh so hard that she almost fell from the sky. Namo Mithriya Buddha. Mithriya Buddha's Dharma form was formed. He looked around and saw everything clearly. His face instantly showed mercy as he chanted, "Is this the demon realm?" That's right, this is the 10,000 demon realm, the revered one. When Xiaohua saw the revered one of the world reveal his Dharma, a kind of benevolence and supremacy was born. He didn't dare to be negligent and hastily answered, "Humans are Buddhas, demons are Buddhas, spirits are Buddhas, demons are also Buddhas." Mithriya Buddha said in a low voice, "Since this is the demon realm, it could also be the 10,000 Buddha's kingdom. I, as the future Buddha Lord, make a great promise. I will be born here, start the Buddha river, pass down the Buddha Dharma, and spread the Buddha light. Namo Dipankara Archaic Buddha, Namo Amitabha Buddha, Namo Mithriya Buddha." In an instant, Buddhist chants resounded in the void, and countless Buddhist lights manifested. Layers of Sanskrit text, mixed with golden Swani text, soared into the sky, forming a gigantic swastika character that soared into the 9 heavens. After a moment, the faint Buddhist lights slowly descended like fireflies, disappearing from the world. As the Buddha light disappeared, the Mithriya Buddha's Dharma idol gradually converged and returned to its original form. Namo Mithriya Buddha congratulates the revered one. Xiaohua clasped his hands together and bowed. There is no joy nor sorrow. It is both suffering and cultivation. Mithriya Buddha returned the bow. Huang Tong was a little confused and hurriedly asked, "Revered one, what does this mean?" "Nothing." Mithriya Buddha smiled and said, "I am about to complete the cultivation of the first transformation golden body. After I enter the heavenly gate, I will enter the Buddhist kingdom. Different from Xiao Tanyua's ascension, I will give birth to 9 golden bodies and re-enter the 9 realms to cultivate the second transformation golden body. The 3 continents are where I condense the first transformation golden body. There will definitely be 1 golden body. The other 8 golden bodies will go to different realms. Of course, these realms must have Buddha light and the lotus pond to condense the golden body. But if I make a great wish, I can descend to a realm without Buddha light like the 10,000 demon realm and establish the foundation of Buddhism from nothing. I will wait for the golden body of the Buddha Lord to descend." "Hey, isn't the revered one the past Buddha Lord?" Huang Tong asked curiously. "For now, isn't that the future?" Mithriya Buddha smiled and said. Huang Tong shook her head and said, forget it. I won't play games with you. I know it's a very difficult thing. If others see it, it's naturally difficult." Mithriya Buddha smiled and said, "But in my eyes, it's easy." With that said, Mithriya Buddha took out the water bottle and handed it to Xiaohua and said, "I wonder if Bodhisattva can give me some water from the lotus pond." "Heh." Xiaohua smiled faintly, took the clear water bottle, took some of the lotus pond water from the space, and returned it to Mithriya Buddha. "Revered one, did you also take the merit of the current Buddha Lord? Merit or not, it really doesn't matter." Mithriya Buddha replied faintly, "Let my Buddha light shine on the 10,000 demon realm as soon as possible. That's the most important thing." Namo Mithriya Buddha. Xiaohua chanted the name of Buddha, looked around and sighed. The revered one's great wish is comparable to Jiang Luer. If you want this 10,000 demon realm to be filled with temples, I'm afraid it will be difficult for you to complete the second transformation golden body. The great wish of the world is not as good as the great wish of Ksitigarbha Bodhisattva. This is nothing. Mithriya Buddha looked at the barren land and strange beasts around and didn't particularly care. Instead, he asked, Bodhisattva, have you not found a place that can accommodate Bodhisattva along the way? Xiao Hua shook his head and said with some worry, not only that, we were almost caught by a demon beast that was about the 10th level of elemental force. It's okay. Mithriel Buddha smiled and said, the world is so big, it's impossible for there to be no place for Bodhisattva. Just look. Revered one. Xiao Hua smiled bitterly and said, it's not that this disciple doesn't want to look, it's that this disciple doesn't have time to look. This disciple needs to quickly find the space passage to the Xiaoyu continent. Chapter 4781. With that, Xiao Hua took out the Kunlun mirror, and with a wave of his hand, he pulled out the little white dragon. As soon as the little white dragon came out of the space, his entire dragon body immediately swelled up, and layers of heaven and earth yuan qi turned into dragon runes and rushed into his dragon body. Roar! Little white dragon roared, rushed to the sky, hovered for a moment, and just wanted to fly a circle in the distance. But after flying 100 miles, he immediately flew back obediently and shouted in front of Xiao Hua, Big brother, we finally arrived at the 10,000 demon realm. Where is this place? Why does it look so unfamiliar? Just now, there was a powerful demon beast that threatened me. Where's this place? Xiao Hua didn't know whether to laugh or cry, and said, I called you out to ask you where this place is. Why are you asking me instead? Could it be that your memory hasn't recovered yet? Big brother, the little white dragon said with a smile, you think too highly of me. When I was in the 10,000 demon realm, I was just a python, living a life that didn't go out of the door. To be honest, if I didn't have the opportunity to obtain Long Yu and then met Ming Hua, I'm afraid I wouldn't even know which demon realm I was living in. You asked me where this is. How would I know? Damn! Xiao Hua felt a headache coming on. He recalled what the little white dragon had said to him when it was cultivating with Taoist sorcerer in the 9 heavens of spirit origin. He smiled bitterly and said, Didn't you say it before? There are a lot of secrets in the 10,000 demon realm that you didn't want to tell me before because you were afraid that I would be distracted. How come now? You don't know anything? Big brother, the little white dragon also defended. At that time, your cultivation was still shallow. What could I tell you? There were a lot of cultivation methods that I naturally couldn't tell you. But who knew, after 100 years, you suddenly became a top expert. How could I still dare to play around in front of you? As for the secrets of the 10,000 demon realm, I seem to know some, but wasn't it sealed at that time? I'm not sure either. I thought it wouldn't be too late to tell you after I break the seal. But now that I think about it, those secrets are meaningless to you now. Hearing Little White Dragon say that he was a python that had never seen the world, Xiao Hua immediately understood that Little White Dragon's background was similar to his, a country bumpkin that had never seen the world. So he nodded and said, All right, let's not talk about this for now. Didn't you travel with Ming Hua in the 10,000 demon realm? Don't tell me you didn't gain anything. Big brother, don't mention it. Little White Dragon sounded like he was about to cry as he complained. Little brother obtained the incomplete dragon jade by chance, but little brother doesn't know how to cultivate it. Thus, I rack my brains to seek guidance from a demon-level expert. However, there aren't many demon-level experts that I can find. These demon-level experts don't know how to recognize treasures, so they can't see the cultivation method in the dragon jade. So they're all little brother. I lied to them. Later, little brother finally found an Earth Stage expert. That Earth Stage expert saw that there was something wrong with the dragon jade, but he didn't understand it, so he brought little brother to find a Star Stage expert. In the end, that Star Stage expert saw the power of the dragon transformation art and wanted to take it for himself. After he killed that Earth Stage expert and wanted to interrogate little brother about where he got the dragon jade, Ming Hua appeared. That Star Stage expert didn't say anything and hurriedly fled, causing Ming Hua to be baffled. After Ming Hua obtained the dragon transformation art, he also had the heart to cultivate it, so he brought little brother with him. He also made it very clear to little brother that he could guide little brother's cultivation, but he had to cultivate the dragon transformation art first. As long as he cultivated the dragon transformation art, little brother would have to leave him. Of course, Ming Hua is a man of his words. He didn't hide anything about the cultivation of the dragon transformation art. Whatever little brother asked, he would answer. However, if little brother didn't ask, he wouldn't say at all. Little white dragon continued. Furthermore, little brother traveled with him. Actually, little brother was brought by him most of the time, coming and going in the wind and clouds. Little brother doesn't know where we went at all, and little brother was engrossed in cultivation at that time. Who knows where we went? As for the spatial passageway that leads to the Dawn Rain continent, it's a place not far from the Hua Tian realm. Ming Hua cultivated there, so little brother knows. Xiao Hua looked at little white dragon's anxious look and nodded. So that's the case, I understand. You don't have to blame yourself either. When Big Brother finds the Hua Tian realm, I'll call you out. Oh, right, if you're willing to stay by Big Brother's side, Big Brother is also willing to bring you along. Goodbye. Little white dragon shrunk his neck and said, I'd better return to the Kunlun Wonderland. The sea there is azure blue and calm. It's much better than here. All right. Xiao Hua waved his hand to take little white dragon back. But at this moment, little white dragon suddenly shouted, Oh, right, Big Brother, I heard Ming Hua say that there's a place called Fei Hong Wasteland in the far east of the Hua Tian realm. He doesn't dare to go there easily. Do you think this place is Fei Hong Wasteland? If it is, Big Brother can fly directly to the west and probably reach the Hua Tian realm. Xiao Hua was overjoyed and asked, Where is the west? Little white dragon pointed in a direction and said, The direction of the 10,000 demon realm is different from the 3 continents and the Dawn Rain continent. Hao Yang's position is east. The position where the sun sits is west. Hao Yang's left hand facing the sun is south, and his right hand is west. What about at night? Xiao Hua suddenly asked. At night? Little white dragon was stunned and shook his head. I don't know. Good. Xiao Hua nodded and waved the Kunlun mirror to keep little white dragon into the space. He looked at Mithril Buddha and Huang Tong helplessly. Looks like we're in big trouble. Fellow Taoist only knows now. Huang Tong laughed. Not to mention little white dragon is unreliable. I reckon that Dai is also unreliable. Don't be in a hurry to fly to the east. Let's ask Dai first. Dai came out of the space and could no longer maintain her human form. Shua. She returned to her swan demon form in the air. Looking at Dai-er's graceful figure and her proud neck, Xiao Hua smiled and said, No wonder you and the Empress can transform into beautiful women. It turns out that your bodies are also so beautiful. Thank you for your praise, Sectmaster. Dai-er flew freely in the air for a moment, as if she was breathing in the yearning of her hometown. Then, she landed and replied respectfully, Dai-er, now that we've reached the 10,000 demon realm, I'm going to the Hua Tian realm. Do you know how to get there? Xiao Hua asked. When she heard the Hua Tian realm, Dai-er was stunned. She didn't understand if Xiao Hua happened to be there or if he knew something. However, Dai-er was already prepared. She whispered, I'll let Master know. I've already seen it just now. This place is very unfamiliar. I don't know and can't tell Master. Moreover, the Hua Tian realm that Master is talking about. I don't know. Chapter 4782. Forget about the Hua Tian boundary. Where's Demon King Imo Sa's Tsengyuan boundary in the 10,000 demon realm? Huang Tong asked impatiently. Dai-er hurriedly replied, It seems to be in the northeast of the 10,000 demon realm. Sai, is there a map similar to the Xiaoyu continent in the 10,000 demon realm? Xiao Hua sighed and asked. Seeing Xiao Hua's disappointment, Dai-er was anxious, but she still hesitated. There seems to be, but I'm not sure. I've only heard a few words from the Empress. Then do you know about the Great Wasteland? Xiao Hua asked straightforwardly. The Great Wasteland? Dai-er was stunned and asked curiously. Senior knows about the Great Wasteland. I didn't say it was the Great Wasteland. Xiao Hua laughed. I'm only asking if you know. I don't know. Dai-er answered honestly. Xiao Hua glanced at Huang Tong. Both of their eyes were filled with helplessness. Mithril Buddha smiled. Then do you know from the Empress or the other demons in the Tianfu Palace that there are any dangers in the 10,000 demon realm? Oh, I remember now. Dire suddenly said in surprise. When I was in the Mo Sa Palace, I heard from the Empress that Demon King Mo Sa once went to the north of the Tsungyuan boundary, a place called the Dripping Dew Wasteland, and was injured there. The Empress also said that fortunately it was the Dripping Dew Wasteland. If it was the Dripping Dew Wasteland in the southwest, I'm afraid I would have lost half of my life. Then what is between these two wastelands and the Tsungyuan boundary? Mithria Buddha asked again. It should be the sea. Dia rolled her eyes and replied. It seems to be called the Blue Jade Sea. Xiao Hua looked at the two suns that were about to set and said, if I ask you to return to the heavenly blessing palace in the sky rain boundary, can you go back? Dia knew that Xiao Hua was not probing, but looking for the direction. She did not hide it and shook her head. I can't. The sky is the same as the ground. There are many flying beasts. Their territory is the sky. Even if I know the direction, I don't dare to fly over it. In other words, you don't know where the heavenly blessing palace is, even with the sun as a reference? Huang Tong was also worried and asked. Yes, I really can't tell. Dyer said apologetically. I've made a fool of myself. It's nothing. Xiao Hua laughed. I'll think of something myself. Oh, by the way, how is Yuanya's cultivation? Reporting to Master, there was a strange spatial fluctuation earlier, causing it to experience a slight deviation. But now he's fine. Hurriedly reported. When Xiao Hua left Yuanxi Reef Plain, he didn't bring any of his disciples with him, only Yuanya. Not only because he had promised to let Yuanya accompany Dai, to save Empress Yanwan, but also because Yuanya was refining the Devil Spear. Xiao Hua was really worried. All right, you can go back first. Xiao Hua activated the Kunlun mirror, and the light pillar enveloped Dai. He said, think about it carefully. If you think of anything, report it immediately. Yes, Master. Dai bowed and returned to Shenhua continent. We're in trouble. Huang Tong shook her head and said, Little White Dragon said that there was a great wilderness in the east of Hua Tian boundary. Dai said that there were two wastelands. One was called Li Li Wasteland, north of Tsungyuan boundary. The other was called Bo Wasteland, southwest of Tsungyuan boundary. Minghua is a great sage of the 10,000 demon realm. This Huatian boundary should be in a place where there are more demons in the 10,000 demon realm. Demon King Mo Sa's Tsungyuan boundary shouldn't be too far away. Let's put the two places together for the time being. In other words, if we can't determine where we are now, no matter if we go east, west, north, or south, it's possible to reach Huatian boundary. Yes. Xiao Hua said helplessly. We can reach Huatian boundary in any direction, which means that anyone can reach the depths of the wasteland in any direction. These wastelands are places that even the great sages of the 10,000 demon realm don't dare to enter. We should just forget about it. Then where should we go? Huang Tong also had no idea. Don't worry. Xiao Hua's heart moved, and he thought of something. He waved his hand and took Xiao Gua out of the space. Xiao Gua fell in midair, and there was no special change. Her body swayed, and she first revealed her original body, and then a moment later, she turned back into her human form. Greetings, Master. Xiao Gua looked at Huang Tong and the others timidly, and bowed to Xiao Hua. Xiao Hua ordered, this is the 10,000 demon realm. This old man wants to go to the Huatian realm. Go and ask the spirit clan nearby if they know the Huatian realm, or if they know where this place is, where this old man should go. Yes, Master. Xiao Gua did not dare to delay, and her body fell, and she disappeared into the ground. Unfortunately, in the time it took to finish a meal, Xiao Gua returned with a look of fear on her face. She said respectfully, Master, you should know that the spirit race people here cannot be considered spirit race people and do not have any special intelligence. Some of them are ignorant and do not even know where they are. Moreover, these spirit clan are very fierce. I can't get anything out of them. Sai, I understand you can go back. Xiaohua's words were not out of Xiao Hua's expectations. He waved his hand and put Xiao Guo into the space, and looked at Huang Tong helplessly. Fellow Taoist, there's no need to say more. This is definitely one of the 3 wastelands. Otherwise, it is impossible for there to be so many spirit clan without intelligence. It is a pity that we do not know where this wasteland is. It is only in this mountain, and we do not know where it is. Huang Tong shook her head and said, "It seems that we are at our wits' end. Let's invite everyone out first." Xiao Hua said, "Let's invite the Fortune Gate's 5th master, Jie." The Phoenix Parasol was invited out of the space by Xiao Hua. Once it was out of the space, it immediately stretched out its neck and let out a long cry. As it flapped its wings, the star patterns on its wings lit up, and it fell into the sky and turned into a clear star. Swoosh! The originally dusky sky suddenly darkened. The starry sky seemed to have been forcibly pulled out by a big hand. One after another, the stars twinkled with different colors of starlight, revealing themselves. As for the 2 suns, they were now 2 huge outlines. One had orange edges, and the other had golden edges. Opposite the 2 suns were the outlines of 3 full moons. Similarly, one had blue edges, one had purple edges, and the last one had dark gold edges. Then, boom, boom, boom. Huge rumbling sounds rang out in the surrounding 10,000 miles. Pillars of starlight and moonlight fell from the sky, landing on the Phoenix Parasol's body. The Phoenix Parasol's demonic body suddenly expanded again. Moreover, as it expanded, the Phoenix Parasol's demonic beast body became thinner, as if it was melting under the power of the stars and moon. Layers of desolate aura, more ferocious than mountains and seas, rushed out in all directions. Chapter 4783. Huang Tong was stunned and exclaimed, "Phoenix Sage, what kind of aphrodisiac did she take? Why is she so fierce?" Looking at the star pillar that descended from the sky, the faint star patterns were as beautiful as fluttering feathers. Xiaohua already knew what Feng Wu had encountered. He hurriedly waved his hand and said, "Let's go. This is not something we can interfere with. It's better to leave first." Caw! Another proud cry of a phoenix resounded from the Phoenix Wu's nearly transparent body. A terrifying aura rushed into the world along with the cry of the phoenix. When this sound fell into Huang Tong's ears, Huang Tong was terrified as if she had seen a ghost. Without waiting for Xiao Hua to say anything, she immediately flapped her wings and flew into the distance. Then Xiao Hua, Thunder Immortal, and Buddha Mithriya also urged their figures to leave. While Xiao Hua and the others were flying away, somewhere in the sky of the 10,000 demon realm, there was a mysterious place. This place was originally overflowing with clear light. Layers of mysterious laws of heaven and earth flowed around the clear light like fish. Under this clear light, there was probably a place thousands of miles away. A colorful phoenix flapped its wings and really swept across the sky. It was at this moment that the originally flowing clear light suddenly cracked like a bubble. At the same time, 9-colored light gushed out like a fountain and spread in all directions. The laws of the world condensed into clusters of heavenly flowers in the 9-colored light, and went against the flow to crash into the cracked void. Boom! A dull roar came from the void. Circles of space waves more violent than the waves of the sea slammed into the heaven and earth. The 5-colored phoenix that was originally like a meteor across the sky was immediately attracted by this strange phenomenon. After the waves rushed over, a simple-looking crown suddenly appeared on the 5-colored phoenix's phoenix head. The 5-colored phoenix's figure immediately stopped in midair. She raised her head in shock and looked at the almost invisible place. She exclaimed, "Ah, the holy list has appeared? Could it be that another great saint has appeared in the 10,000 demon realm?" After the 5-colored phoenix exclaimed, she looked left and right, and a mysterious smile appeared on her face. She muttered to herself, Haha, what a coincidence. I happened to pass by the saint ranking today, and I'm the first one to see it. I want to see which spirit tribe has produced a great sage. While speaking, the five-colored phoenix let out a clear cry, flapped its wings, and disappeared into the void. When it reappeared, it was already not far away from the nine-colored flowing light. And at this time, in the nine-colored void, a massive stone tablet was slowly reaching out from the dark void. The void was inexplicably strange, and the stone tablet emitted a boundless aura. Every inch the stone tablet reached out, space would collapse a little. Layers of profound meanings fell into space, forming a prison that was 1,000 miles wide. It was this prison that kept the five-colored phoenix outside of the stone tablet. Outside of the prison, the stone tablet looked like a huge monster. Only the nine-colored flashes could be seen, and its true appearance could not be seen clearly. The five-colored phoenix waited for a moment. Demonic aura surged around her, and the feathers on her wings shone brilliantly. When the brilliance and demonic aura rushed into the crown on her head, the crown also glowed with a brilliance similar to the nine colors. Woo! The brilliance fell into the prison, and a whirlwind was born from the prison. It fell on the body of the five-colored phoenix and immediately imprisoned her. The five-colored phoenix that was imprisoned was no longer the size of 1,000 feet. From the outside, she looked like a small sparrow. The five-colored phoenix fell into the prison and was met with the majestic will of heaven and earth. More than half of the huge stone tablet had been revealed, and a huge saint was gradually appearing on the surface of the stone tablet. Most of the aura that suppressed the five-colored phoenix was emitted from the word saint. Hiss! The five-colored phoenix felt such a surging aura and could not help but gasp. She almost cried out in surprise. Why? Why is the aura of the Holy List so strong this time? This great saint that is about to be born. What is his strength? Could it be that he can surpass the confinement of heaven and earth in my 10,000 demon realm? Boom, boom, boom. Before the five-colored phoenix's surprised voice could land, the stone tablet was completely revealed. The entire prison was trembling, and the five-colored phoenix's body could not help but sway. Although the five-colored phoenix could not stand firmly in midair, her phoenix eyes were still staring at the gradually disappearing word saint on the stone tablet. She wanted to see what kind of monster appeared in the 10,000 demon realm to have such momentum. Ka. Just as the word saint disappeared, the laws of heaven and earth were born in the void. The laws of heaven and earth condensed into lightning, and the entire stone tablet was trembling. A line of words that stunned the five-colored phoenix appeared on the stone tablet. This is impossible? One could see that the stone wall was already densely covered with names. Each name emitted an aura that looked down on the world. However, when the words that were even blacker and heavier than the strange names appeared, the aura of all the names was suppressed. This row of words was Feng Wu of the Phoenix Clan. How is this possible? How is this possible? The five-colored phoenix was incoherent. A great saint appeared in the phoenix tribe. Why? Why didn't I know? Of course, in just a moment, the five-colored phoenix calmed down. She immediately understood and whispered, "This great saint of the phoenix tribe must not be from the 10,000 demon realm. He must be from the outer realm. No, could it be this Phoenix Wu is him? Could it be that he has returned? No, I must find this Phoenix Wu Grand Sage before the Fire Phoenix Grand Sage." As she spoke, the five-colored phoenix hurriedly moved her body, tried to escape from the space sealed by the saint ranking. However, at this moment, something strange happened again. Rumble. Countless tiny fluctuations rushed out from the heavens and earth like lightning, rushing into the stone tablet like tadpoles looking for their mother. Kacha! Under the impact of this impact, cracks actually appeared on the stone tablet. The Holy List is broken? The five-colored phoenix's expression changed drastically. She stopped in her tracks and stared at the stone tablet with even more disbelief than before. Rumble, rumble, rumble. Another huge rumbling sound was emitted from the empty space. Layers of unknown, pitch-black aura surged out from the empty space and landed on the stone tablet. The cracks on the stone wall quickly disappeared. Moreover, the tens of thousands of lightning bolts fell into the pitch-black aura and were quickly annihilated. When all the lightning bolts disappeared, the pitch-black aura had also completely disappeared. The five-colored phoenix looked at all this in confusion. This was a strange phenomenon that she had never seen or heard of before. Chapter 4784. Crack, crack, crack. Not long after the pitch-black aura disappeared, the laws of heaven and earth appeared in the void again. The laws of heaven and earth condensed into lightning, and the entire stone tablet trembled again. Then, another line of words appeared on the stone tablet. Ow! How is this possible? The five-colored phoenix could not remember how many times she said the same thing today. She just looked at the words on the stone tablet again and was shocked, because these words were Dragon Clan Chi. Just these three words were enough to knock the five-colored phoenix out. After half a cup of tea's time, she came back to her senses and screamed as if she had seen a ghost. Since when did the Dragon Clan exist in the 10,000 demon realm? How is this possible? At this point, she no longer hesitated and hurriedly moved her body out of the range of the saint rankings. She looked around and thought to herself, needless to say, the great sage of the Dragon Clan and the great sage of the Phoenix Clan must have come to the 10,000 demon realm hand in hand. This will definitely set off endless waves in the 10,000 demon realm. At this time, the great sages of the various clans have not received the news of the saint rankings. I must find it as soon as possible. Just as the five-colored phoenix was about to move her body, suddenly, her body shook again. She looked at the sky in the southwest and asked curiously, why is there such a strange fluctuation of stars and moon in the Bo wasteland? Hiss! In just a moment, the five-colored phoenix understood again and sucked in a breath of cold air. Today is really strange. This must be that Phoenix Wu and Dragon Clan Chi advancing into the Great Sage Realm. They have not completely advanced. How can they leave their names on the saint rankings? If so, it could really be that person. I remember that he said something a long time ago. Something secret. Forget it. Quickly send a message to the Phoenix Palace and ask the Phoenix Emissary to go to the Bo wasteland at all costs. Maybe we can find the two great sages before the other saints. Then, the five-colored phoenix moved away from the saint rankings and went to give the order. As for Xiao Hua and the others, they flew for half an hour before they escaped from the terrifying aura. Damn it! Huang Tong cursed in her heart. Could this be the legendary supreme demon phoenix in the Xianyuan space? Why is he here? Inside the body of the Phoenix Wu? Demonic sovereign phoenix? Xiao Hua's heart stirred, and he asked in a low voice, what exactly is this demonic sovereign phoenix? I'm not too sure either. It's just a legendary evil phoenix. Huang Tong replied carefully in her heart. The legendary evil phoenix is rare in the world, but it is also arrogant and unruly. It does not submit to anyone. In its eyes, there is no right or wrong, only power. Of course, because of this, he also suffered a lot. They were banished from the clan and even hunted down by their enemies. However, he doesn't care about these things at all. Wait until he succeeds in his cultivation and defeats all the elders in the clan, then trample the patriarch beneath his feet. Huang Tong briefly told the story of how the evil phoenix became the leader of the demon clan. In the end, she said, the problem is that there are no demon clan members in the Xianyuan space. Who knows where this story came from? Earlier, I thought that it was just a legend. However, the aura of the Phoenix Parasol, just now, truly made me feel terrified. That was why I couldn't help but think of this legend. Sigh. All of them have extraordinary backgrounds. Xiao Hua smiled bitterly as he looked at the colorful night sky in the distance. He did not know what to say as he looked at the thunder immortal who was closing his eyes to comprehend. Lightning once again appeared around his body, and he said, fellow Taoist, why don't you come down and comprehend it properly? We'll wait here for you. What do you think? All right. The Thunder Immortal did not open his eyes. His figure flashed, and he landed on the peak of a mountain not far away. Bolts of lightning soared into the sky, covering nearly 1,000 miles around him. Namo Mithriya Buddha. The Mithriya Buddha was somewhat enlightened. He put his palms together and said, Bodhisattva, the laws of heaven and earth in the demon realm are too obvious. I'm afraid that every Tanyu who comes out has to be baptized by the laws of heaven and earth? Yes, Xiaohua nodded. The laws of heaven and earth in the demon realm are more shallow than those in the 4 major continents. Furthermore, the brilliance of the stars and moon is extremely abundant, causing the qi of heaven and earth to be abundant. This is really useful for cultivation. Furthermore, when I entered the realm barrier of the demon realm previously, it was also washed by the laws of heaven and earth. The laws of the demon realm, the 4 major continents, and the immature realm all affected the Shenhua continent. Therefore, it is easy for fellow Taoists to comprehend the laws of heaven and earth here. Who is the one after Sage Phoenix? Huang Tong asked worriedly. Naturally, it's the 6th elder Taoist witch. Xiaohua looked around and said, Let's talk after we're 1,000 miles away. Huang Tong's worry was unnecessary. Taoist which flew out of the space without any changes. Not to mention the laws of heaven and earth. Even his figure was similar to the 4 major continents. Why are you so calm? Xiaohua asked, puzzled. Taoist which smiled slightly. It's just a barren land. Why are you panicking? Taoist witch's words were of course a joke, because in a moment, Xiaohua had already told Taoist witch everything that had happened. Taoist, which was born from the shaman, and had nothing to do with the laws of heaven and earth in the demon realm. Therefore, it was normal that there were no changes. Xiaohua was making a fuss over nothing. Since fellow Taoist, which doesn't like the demon realm, I'm sure the 7th elder of the Fortune Gate doesn't like it either, Xiaohua said, and invited Taoist witch out of the space. Boom, boom, boom. Just as Taoist witch's dragon body landed in the sky, there was a sudden roar between heaven and earth. The space within 10,000 miles was instantly sealed. Tens of millions of pale golden rings emerged from the void, and these rings carried the laws of heaven and earth that Xiaohua was familiar with. They surged and pounced on Taoist witch. What's going on? Xiaohua was shocked. Although the rings did not land on Xiaohua, Huang Tong, Taoist witch, Mithriya Buddha, and the world-honored one, the 4 of them were restrained by the laws of heaven and earth. They could not even move. Taoist witch sneered. His voice couldn't be heard outside the sealed space, and could only be heard faintly in Xiaohua's heart. What else could it be? The laws of heaven and earth in this space don't allow the Dragon Clan to appear. I appeared here, so naturally, I'm suppressed by the laws of heaven and earth. Damn it, no wonder there are no Dragon Clan in the demon realm. So that's why. Xiaohua came to his senses, but for a moment, he was puzzled again. That's not right. The little white dragon just came out. Why is he fine? Give a tip, and thank you for all your support. Chapter 4785. Speaking of this, Xiaohua suddenly thought of something and said, That's right. Little White Dragon is originally a python from the demon realm. Perhaps the law of heaven and earth has no effect on him? But, fellow Taoist, what should we do now? I can't put you into my space anymore. Don't be afraid. Although Reverend Yun was a little panicked, his tone was still calm. The law of heaven and earth only targets the Dragon Clan in the demon realm. Ai's dragon body has already surpassed the demon realm. As Reverend Yun spoke, the pale golden rings had already landed on his body. Each ring corresponded to a dragon scale on his body. Obviously, the places where the rings landed could completely suppress Reverend Yun, and even wipe out his soul. Boom, boom, boom. Strange ripples spread out, completely tearing the void apart. One after another, the will of heaven and earth, which was even more vast than mountains, fell into the rings. The rings gradually blurred, forming the outline of the law of heaven and earth, which condensed together and slowly fell down. Of course, Xiaohua was also in this outline. They had already sensed the pressure of the entire heaven and earth, and there was no way for them to fight back. Illo! At this moment, Reverend Yin let out a dragon roar. A bright light suddenly flashed between his 5 claws, and the Pangu axe appeared. Swoosh! A shocking light flashed. Crack! A sound rang in Xiaohua's ears, but the entire demon realm seemed to be trembling. All the outlines of the law of heaven and earth were split in half. The laws of heaven and earth were shattered. The tens of thousands of broken rings were revealed. However, at the same time when the rings were revealed, thousands of tiny ripples emerged from the cracks of the rings. As the ripples fell into the air, they condensed into the appearance of a strange sacred beast. This sacred beast was emitting an aura that the entire heaven and earth could not bear. Not to mention the distortion of the void, even the light and shadow could not reveal the true appearance of this sacred beast. After the sacred beast appeared, it immediately pounced on Reverend Yun. Reverend Yun's dragon body faded like an ink painting, fading away into space at an extremely fast speed. Not only that, all of Xiao Hua's incarnations were breaking into pieces, rushing towards Xiao Hua's true body to a kind of absolute darkness. A kind of absolute fear and an irresistible power appeared from this vague holy beast will. It destroyed many of Xiao Hua's avatars and even attacked Xiao Hua's main body. Facing such an opponent, Xiao Hua was powerless to fight back. Just like Reverend Yun, his entire golden avatar began to vanish from the soles of his feet, arms, and other parts of his body. A shadow of death quickly spread across Xiao Hua's entire body, like a shadow of light and twilight. In other words, when the twilight covered the back of Xiao Hua's head, the crystal-like divine spark immediately emitted a resplendent brilliance. Strands of tenacious power of faith were born, and like seeds, they blocked the cover of the twilight. Then the entire crystal quaked. Roar! Reverend Luo Bu's dragon roar, Feng Wu and Huang Tong's phoenix cry, Xiao Hua's long howl, and billions of worshippers' chants. A bright wave appeared and crushed the deathly twilight, spreading out in all directions. Wherever the light passed, Xiao Hua's golden avatar was born, and all his avatars were restored. Reverend Yun's dragon avatar was also completed like a finishing touch. Boom! When the light fell into the holy beast will, the aura that suppressed the heaven and earth was crushed, and the entire holy beast was wiped out. Then, it turned into fine lines and was crushed by the light. Ka-ka-ka! At the same time when the fine lines were crushed, all the rings were completely broken. An overwhelming wave evolved from the rings and rushed out in all directions of the 10,000 demon realm. After the wave passed, the broken laws of heaven and earth turned into 2 halves of the pale golden rings. The broken void formed a huge whirlpool, and the broken rings flickered and were about to fall into the whirlpool. Since you're here, don't think about leaving. Reverend Yun laughed ferociously. The dragon patterns on his body shone brightly, and the dragon scales flashed brilliantly, trying to absorb the broken rings. Swoosh! When each of the dragon scales had absorbed half of the pale golden rings, the dragon patterns on Reverend Yun's body were greatly reduced, as if he had reached his limit. Xiao Hua came back to his senses and laughed. If that's the case, I won't hold back. While speaking, Xiao Hua's mind rolled and absorbed most of the rings into his space. I want some too. Huang Tong's eyes turned red. She flapped her wings and absorbed 10% of the rings into her body. Taoist, which glanced at Mithriel Buddha, who did not move, and said, "If you don't need them, I will take some for fellow Taoist lay." Namo Mithriel Buddha, please. Mithriel Buddha replied and raised his hand. With a wave of Taoist witch's sleeve, the rest of the rings were collected. Xiao Hua took the rings and did not hesitate. First, he gave one to each of the 100 or so 8th tribulation and semi-nascent soul cultivators. They had just passed the minor heavenly tribulation, and the broken laws of heaven and earth were great supplements. The laws of heaven and earth that had condensed into the shape of a ring disappeared, and the whirlpool in the void slowly disappeared as well. The absolute suppression also disappeared without a trace. Xiaohua looked at the quiet night sky in a daze. What he saw just now was like a dream. Reverend Yun's dragon body swayed and transformed into his human form. He landed in front of Xiaohua and said embarrassedly, "Fellow Taoist Xiao, I have used the Pangu axe. I'm afraid I won't be able to use it again for the next few decades. It might delay your plan." It's okay. Xiaohua hurriedly waved his hand and said, "Even if the Pangu axe can't do it, there's still the devil saber. It can also break the demon formation. And if you don't use the Pangu axe, I'm afraid all of us will be suppressed. It's impossible not to use it. All right, the laws of heaven and earth should be man-made, right?" "Of course." Reverend Yun nodded and replied, "When I broke the golden rings, the image of the sacred beast was revealed. But as for who it is, I don't know. It's not hard to guess. It could be the enemy of the dragon clan in the demon realm, or the enemy of the dragon realm in the upper realm. Judging from the danger, just now, fellow Taoist's axe should have broken not only the shackles, but also the laws." Xiaohua asked tentatively. Reverend Yun said proudly, "Of course, if it was an ordinary dragon, it would have broken the shackles. But what I broke was the laws of heaven and earth." Xiaohua smiled bitterly with lingering fear and said, "Fellow Taoist, how could I not know that you are so fierce? It was too dangerous just now. When the Pangu axe broke the shackles, it touched the laws of heaven and earth. If it weren't for the mysterious items we have today, we wouldn't have a good ending." Huang Tong also nodded and said, "Fellow Taoist Xiao, the laws of heaven and earth are not the real laws of heaven and earth. They are only a punishment attached to the laws of heaven and earth." Reverend Yun took the opportunity when the punishment triggered the suppression of the laws of heaven and earth. He used the Pangu axe to cut off the connection between the punishment force and the laws of heaven and earth. It could be said that he changed the laws of heaven and earth in the demon realm. It was because of the change in the laws of heaven and earth that the sacred beast of punishment appeared. Fellow Taoist's divine punishment force blocked the sacred beast's attack and even counterattacked. Presumably, from now on, this punishment won't work anymore. Give it a reward, and thank you for all your support. You're tuning in to the Dreamy Chapters YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.